following is a presentation of Disruption Networks.
Join the Disruption Network crew Friday, June 8th at the Empowerment Center Block Party, 230 James Street in Utica, from 4 to 6 p.m. Music provided by our very own DJ East One. There will be vendors, grilling with the Utica Police Department, hands-on craft with BB Designs and Steamwork Ability Lab, seed bombs, lead safe demo, and come hang with Utica Fire Department. That's Friday, June 8th at the Empowerment Center, 230 James Street in Utica. The block party is hosted by the Homeownership Center, the Mohawk Valley Association of Realtors, Steamworks Ability Lab, Lead Free Mohawk Valley, Berkshire Bank, MVP Healthcare, BB Designs, and NeighborWorks America.
The Property Sisters of the Mohawk Valley was born when 3 top producing agents with over 25 years of combined experience selling real estate joined forces to take real estate to the next level. We practice with honesty, integrity, and the knowledge to help make the buying and selling process easy and stress-free for all of our clients. We pledge to always make our clients our top priority from start to finish and even after the house is closed. We will always be a valued resource for information and assistance for our buyers and sellers. Our customers over the years have become not only past clients, but great friends. As we join hands together as the Property Sisters of the Mohawk Valley, we look forward to serving our clients and our community and making a positive difference. You can reach us at 315-601-9630 for all of your real estate needs.
When it's your hard-earned money on the line that you are investing into a home, it makes sense to choose a proven professional to assist you in making one of the biggest investments you may ever make. Josh's dedication of over 20 years to the home construction industry allows him to bring knowledge and experience to your doorstep. That means you can feel confident and comfortable with his service to you. Past clients love his attention to detail and thorough written reports. By allowing Priceless Inspections to help you make a well-informed decision concerning your property, you will find that a quality inspection is priceless. Follow Priceless Inspections on Facebook or call 315-525-8725.
Hi, this is attorney Nick Pasalacqua. The team of attorneys I have assembled at Pasalacqua & Associates has been carefully hand-picked to include the best trial attorneys in the particular areas of the law that we practice. Have you been charged with DWI or any other crime? Members of our team include former assistant district attorneys, now fighting to protect your rights 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Have you or someone you love been seriously injured in a motor vehicle accident? Members of the team at Pasalacqua & Associates include former insurance defense attorneys, now fighting to ensure that you get every penny you're entitled to. If you need legal help quick, don't waste your time or money calling anyone else. Remember, for legal help quick, you better call Nick and the team at Pasalacqua & Associates. 315-500-NICK or 315-500-6425 or visit cnytriallaw.com today.
Good evening out there, baseball fans. Once again, back with you, it's JP and SPG. The Baseline, special Thursday night edition. It is 6 p.m. Eastern. Waiting for all these games to start. Can't wait to get to tonight's show. We got some good stuff going on in Major League Baseball, some injury updates, some people coming back that may prove worthy for your fantasy team if you are so inclined to be doing that out there. We got the Red Sox still staying hot, the Yankees hot on their tails after a long 13-inning game against Toronto last night. And speaking of Yankees and Toronto, we're going to get to some stuff about the Yankees and Major League Baseball and ESPN and not being so happy about a game against Toronto.
That's right, yep. And our last show, we talked a little bit about the MLB draft. We'll be talking a little bit about some of the results of that. And we had a seventh-inning stretch last week that was ranking the top number one overall picks of all time and the worst number one overall picks of all time. And today in baseball history ties into that
Today in
list.
baseball history.
June 7th, 1966, the A's selected future Hall of Famer Reggie Jackson in the first round with the second overall pick of the amateur draft. And the Mets, with the first overall pick, chose Steve Chilcott, a high school catcher who would never play a day in Major League Baseball.
Chilcott. So 2 weeks in a row.
He was on our second. I think he was number 2 on that list.
Because, I believe I compared him to Sam Bowie.
Yeah, that's right. That was the whole Sam Bowie, Michael Jordan talk.
Reggie Jackson. He's good, right?
He's good, right? That's good, right? To be number 2 overall.
Yeah. He just didn't get a mention on my 7. Well, let's call it the 7 up and 7 down last week is basically what we did. But
pretty much,
he didn't get a mention because he wasn't the number 1 pick. Should have been, though. Hindsight's 20/20 for the Steve Chilcott pick. Steve Chilcott getting his moment in the sun on the baseline again. What's up, SPG? Lot going on. We're gonna talk about some guys coming back. Noah Syndergaard set to come off the disabled list from his injured finger.
Yeah, he's coming back
this Sunday.
Maybe
a shot in the arm.
The Subway Series.
Subway Series. One of my favorite weekends.
Mets.
One of my favorite weekends. Honestly, I like that series. Relatively even. We talked about it earlier when we did our 7th inning stretch on best rivalries in baseball. We talked in depth about.
We did. And there is a little bit of good news for the Mets out there. You mentioned Syndergaard's coming back. Sounds like Yoenis Cespedes isn't too far away either. He's getting very close to returning. I don't know if they're going to send him on rehab games or if they're just going to activate him right to the Major League roster. But he's getting close to coming back too. So there's help on the way for the New York Mets, and they certainly need it the way things have been going for them.
5 games under. If you're tuning into us for the first time and you didn't check out last week's show, we do this thing called Out of the Baseline at the end where we highlight somebody that's not doing something necessarily right. And Sean threw the New York Mets out last week. So the Mets are still out of the baseline.
Things haven't gotten much better since
2-8 in their last 10. They're still
6 losses in a row.
Sinking like a rock down towards the Miami Marlins and away from the Phillies, Braves, and Nationals in that division. Speaking of that division, the Nationals playing excellent baseball, highlighted by another disgusting performance out of who we both ranked as the number 1 pitcher in the game with, what was that, 2 weeks ago? Two 7th inning stretches ago, we talked about Mad Max Scherzer, and he did not fail to disappoint.
He is ridiculous. And did you see, I think it was before our last show, actually, and it was something I wanted to mention and I'd forgotten about, but before this start, they brought him in a few days before that as a pinch hitter in extra innings. And he ended up getting on base, ended up scoring the game-winning run. I forget who it was against. It might have been Atlanta even. But coming through in the clutch in extra innings with the bat and on the bases too, Max Scherzer, on top of what he's doing.
Mad Max.
Well on his way to
from Thunderdome,
a 3rd consecutive Pitcher of the Month award and maybe another Cy Young.
Really, you think?
Maybe.
Are you going out on a limb there?
He's good, right?
He's good, right? Max Scherzer?
Good, right?
Right? Spin rate. That's good, right? We're gonna get to more Max Scherzer, I'm sure, when we run down our rundown section of our show, and we go down the league leaders for you. I'm sure we're gonna mention Max Scherzer's names just a few times when we discuss NL pitchers, but NL pitcher of the week again, and well deserved for the now surging Washington Nationals, who are establishing themselves as the class not only of that division, but maybe of the National League if they continue to put out pitching performances like Max has done. Gio Gonzalez and Steven Strasburg, it's a formidable staff with Doolittle. I believe, I don't have the league leaders in front of me right now, but Doolittle's got to be up amongst the league leaders in saves in the National League, really solidifying the back end of that bullpen. Better than it was last year.
He's got to be up there, and he has done a great job.
What a great trade!
Exactly what the Washington Nationals needed when they picked him up, because that bullpen was just a mess at the beginning to middle of last year, and they pick up Doolittle, and they got Madsen in the same trade, I believe, and just revamp the whole back end of that bullpen. Your 8th and 9th inning guy. Madsen's missed some time this year, but Doolittle has been lights out and has been exactly what that team needed. So things are looking up for the Washington Nationals, as we all kind of expected would happen as the season rolled on here.
So, I mean, Blake Treinen, potato. Sometimes, you mess things up. But anyway, the current closer for the A's was a part of that deal, and then a left-hander named Jesus Luzardo, and a minor league third baseman, Sheldon Noose. Guys you haven't even heard of. So definitely the Nationals are reaping the rewards of that trade with Ryan Madsen and Sean Doolittle coming over last year. and really turning things around for what was an Achilles heel for that team for the better part of last year.
It's worth mentioning too that Blake Trinan has actually been really good for
really
them.
good. Yeah. So I mean,
very
that's
good year. He's one of the if you look at the stats, he's one of the top closers in baseball now. So that's what the Nationals were hopeful of when they named him closer days before the start of the 2017 season. It just didn't work out for whatever reason. I don't know. He was a little banged up and just wasn't performing in the ninth inning, and then they demoted him, and they tried a whole bunch of guys in that role, and nothing worked out, and he didn't do very well as a setup man either. But 2018 with Oakland, things are going right for Blake Trinan for sure.
Yeah, he's off to a really good start for a team that kind of laying in the middle of the weeds out there in the AL West. Clearly not amongst the stronger competition in the AL West right now. The Oakland Athletics, maybe potentially, like we talked about, they could end up being a seller. Maybe Blake Trinan's a guy that might be on the move. I don't think you want to move a guy like that. He's signed through 2000. Well, no, he's only signed through the end of this year. Very friendly.
So he could be a trade candidate.
$2.15 million. But Blake Trinan, with the year that he's having, could be a potential trade candidate coming out of there. Out there in Oakland, in the Bay Area, as they continue to fall further back of the Houston Astros in that disgusting pitching staff that is out there being boasted by Houston. I'm sure we're going to talk about that when we run down the league leaders, because their whole pitching staff's going to be the ERA leaders, I'm pretty sure, right?
Not the whole pitching staff. You might find a Houston Astros pitcher in the 3 down segment of the fantasy baseball ups and downs list later on. Maybe. A little tease there, but
is it one that I own?
Or it is not.
Then I know who it is.
I'm sure you do, because I've sent you messages about this guy very recently.
It's deserved.
It is.
Hey, folks, anybody out there that's tuning in, who do you think we're going to be throwing in the 3 down? Give us your thoughts here on the text line or right here on Facebook. Write us your thoughts. Who's trending down? Who's trending up? Who do you think we should talk about? And again, get down there and hit the share button. Share it with your friends. Maybe somebody out there likes baseball and they want to listen to 2 guys talk about baseball. And that's what we're doing right now. It's 2 guys talking about baseball. So thanks for tuning in, everybody that's with us. Gaff, I'm pretty sure your 3-up curses me, and that's out of our boy Dave Bandick. Apparently, he's not doing too well with your 3-up.
It has been a little bit of a curse. It seems like anytime I do mention somebody in that,
chances are it was an Indian then, right?
It's like the Madden curse almost. And I think I did that to you a little bit with Odubel Herrera a few weeks ago. He's been pretty good, but he just that ridiculous pace.
40. Hey, listen. I can admit when I'm wrong and when I do things that I probably shouldn't have done, and I believe that I may have cursed Odubel Herrera. Because I think that
you're taking the blame.
Somebody resembling myself had texted somebody resembling yourself and said something to the effect of, Odubel Herrera needs to be in the 3-up. So it's me. It's me. I'll take the blame. I cursed him, and he's been riding my pine ever since. In the Electric Company Fantasy Baseball League, it's kind of my other world here. I'm into it a lot. It's better than Facebook. It's better than anything.
Yeah, you're in first place right now.
I'm in second place
right now.
You're in
second place.
Oh, second place.
Right.
I got overtaken by Fred McGriffey Sr.
Fred McGriffey did take the lead back.
He did by
it's only
4
a couple
points.
Points though. 4 points.
I'm 4 points back.
That's nothing.
No, not at all. I don't have a starter going for a couple days.
The Shockers are slipping a little bit. I'm still holding down. I think I'm in third place.
I'm waiting for the GM of the Shockers to pull his very best Jerry DiPoto and start making some deals.
I made a trade a couple weeks ago.
You did.
And acquired Paul Goldschmidt.
You did.
For what a lot of people might have considered a pretty hefty price.
And you turned Paul Goldschmidt around with that trade.
He has been hitting well since then.
What's Paul Goldschmidt doing the last couple days?
7 for his last 9. I think he's got his batting average up to 233, which is... doesn't sound good.
Considering where he was, 233
he was right at 200. I think he was even below.
It may as well be 345 right now.
But he's 7 for his last 9. A whole bunch of doubles.
Yeah,
things are starting to come around. Finally,
speaking of doubles,
a couple home runs at home. I gave up Edwin Encarnacion, who in his own right has been on fire since that trade. And Michael Brantley, who has been...
He's been steady. Well, not
especially
more
in the format,
than steady, but...
the format we play in where players who strike out very infrequently are
valuable. Yeah.
Very
you don't want to take negative nights out of a player. I traded
Michael Brantley, who is one of the best players at walk to strikeout ratio in Major League Baseball when he's healthy. So it's not like I didn't give up a lot for Paul Goldschmidt, but I needed to...
No, but you boosted him.
I needed to trim down my hitters a little bit. And, so far, Goldschmidt's been good. I think Encarnacion might actually be out producing him since the deal was made, but I'm hopeful. Paul Goldschmidt might be back from the dead. We'll see.
It seems as though there is a pulse. Unlike, Didi's coming back around now, but unlike Didi had the month of May, and I traded for him, and I got the last salvo, if you will, of Didi's really hot streak, and then all of a sudden it didn't just cool off. It just completely disappeared. So I may have cursed Didi in that trade. Didi, Merrickson, Julius, Sir Didi Gregorius.
Didi was another one.
If you're out there,
he was another 3-up guy this year.
Listen, it's the Madden curse. It really is. Speaking of the Madden curse, somebody that was in your 3-up last week apparently got blown up yesterday, and that's Mengden.
Yeah, he had a bad start. After several really
maybe
good
there's
runs
something to this.
There could be. We might have to start keeping track of this. Somebody's stats since they were mentioned on the baseline as a 3-up candidate. the track record's not good.
No, it is. It's like the Madden cover curse. It is. It's all right.
Maybe it works the other way, too, because I think I had Goldschmidt as a 3-down.
You did?
Shows
and now he's hot.
Yeah, maybe it works the other way. I'm going to just put all my players on
or maybe we're just completely playing into the old stereotype that everything always comes out in the wash and everything always a career player gets to his career numbers, in streaks.
Dave says Matt Chapman was another one that I cursed. And another Oakland A.
He's giving it to you
with
good
the Oakland
today.
A's. I'm really
Dave is giving it to you good out
there. And another little tease about the 3-up is you might see an Oakland A on there today as well. And it's not Blake Trinan, believe it or not. So maybe I'll curse him, maybe I won't. I guess we'll have to keep track and find out what happens. So another news around baseball, one thing I thought I saw today that I thought was kind of a cool stat was Bartolo Colon won his 243rd career game yesterday.
He's got to be the active leader at 243.
He's got to be the active leader.
Well, CeCe was like 240. He won the other night, didn't he?
Yeah, it's got to be Colon and CeCe.
Or no,
right at the top
yeah, definitely. But 243's got to be the active leader.
So win 243 actually makes him tied for number 1 all time among players born in the Dominican Republic with legendary Juan Marichal. So he tied Marichal today.
He's good, right?
With his 243rd career victory. Yeah, he's good, right? Or at least he's got longevity.
I can't wait to have that on loop in front of me with a mouse, like a mouse click away. Because
Mike Johnson, if you're out there, listen, Mojo, we need you down here.
Yeah, we got to record.
Come sit in on the show.
Give me the loop. Give me the loop.
Give us some sound bites that we can throw in from time to time. Be much appreciated. We'd love to have you down here, buddy. Ronald Acuna.
So yeah, he is the active leader by 3.
By 3.
I was correct. CeCe won his 240th the other night. Guess who's number 3 and guess how far behind he is?
Number 3, I would have to guess.
Former MVP.
So Verlander.
Yeah.
Would have to be Verlander. How far behind?
195 wins.
Wow, so he's roughly...
And he's 34 years old.
50 behind.
So think about this. Put this in terms. I understand that CeCe has played more years. I understand that. And I understand that CeCe doesn't have the no-hitters or the MVP or I believe he only has 1 Cy Young. Okay, I get that. Okay, but if we look at wins and we look at, era to era, we know people aren't going to get to 300 now, okay? But if you're putting Justin Verlander in right now...
Does Verlander get to 300?
No way. He's 35 years old. He's got 105 more wins to go. 35.
He's producing, though.
I totally agree with you.
But
I
do agree that
there has to come a decline at some point in time. There has to come a decline.
But you look at a guy like Bartolo Colon being, I don't know what he is, 45.
I don't think.
Not that I expect.
Listen,
Verlander
I don't exactly. I don't think Verlander's married to Kate Upton.
But
Kate Upton.
Of anybody,
right? So,
I think he probably has the best shot.
I think, okay. I don't disagree with that because, well, I think out of anybody, the 33-year-old Max Scherzer at 151, the way that he's producing right now, I think of Max Scherzer as more of a, and I'm not discounting Verlander at all.
So even
we've already spoken praises about Verlander.
2 more 20-win seasons for Scherzer, then he's at where Verlander is now, at the same age Verlander is now.
Max Scherzer's not married to Kate Upton.
True. That's a very good point. Very valid point.
Okay, and so I think Verlander goes and gets the chip and is looking for another one, right? That's all well and good, but I don't think that Verlander's a dude that hangs around through age 39, age 40. I just don't. I think that by that time, I think by right now, if we're going, you look at some of the pitchers that are already in the Hall of Fame, and how long it took some of these guys to get in. And I'm not saying Jack Morris is not a Hall of Famer, okay? Not at all. And I understand that there's a disparity in the numbers because Jack Morris pitched for a lot of years, okay? But if Jack Morris did enough to get into the Hall of Fame, Justin Verlander has already done enough to get into the Hall of Fame.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree.
You know, Pedro
Especially
Martinez.
with this Astros
Pedro Martinez,
chapter.
what do you have? 210 wins, 220 wins, but the highest winning percentage of all time. I'm pretty sure that he overtook Whitey Ford for that. But the highest win, he was like something like a ridiculous 130 games over 500.
Well, this
for
Houston
his
Astros chapter of Verlander's career pretty much sealed
It's
the deal.
going to seal it. He's going to win.
It already has.
Listen,
He's won a World Series.
He's on track right now to win another Cy Young, and that's an automatic guarantee. Max Scherzer's going. Max Scherzer could retire in 2 years, and he's going. He's got the no-hitters. He's got the dominance. The 10-year peak is what they're going to start looking at later on when the younger crop of voters, the analytics-driven voters get in. There is no way that Max Scherzer hasn't done enough already, right? There's no way that Justin Verlander hasn't done enough.
Either
already.
one of them.
So that in perspective, if he's already done enough to get into the Hall of Fame, he's got an MVP, he's got a couple Cy Youngs, maybe 3 he might end up with. And he's married to Kate Upton. He's not going to hang around. He's not going to be that guy that hangs around and compiles like a Bartolo Colon. And I'm not saying that I'm not taking anything away from him because he's still being a productive major leaguer right now, Bartolo Colon. He is.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm glad that we're on the topic of Bartolo Colon.
He wouldn't be on a roster. He wouldn't be starting games right now.
No, he absolutely wouldn't. So I'm not discounting it by any way. But right now, to 243 wins for Bartolo Colon, he's compiling wins. What is he, 43, 44? I don't see Verlander hanging around to compile to get to a magical threshold that he doesn't need to get to. You understand? Like, that's kind of all I'm
just turned 45 years old in
45
at the end
years
of May,
old.
a couple weeks ago.
I mean, that would require Justin Verlander another 10 years. If we're giving Justin Verlander another 10 years, then yes, Justin Verlander's getting to the magical number, right? Because that was your original question that you posed to me, was does Justin Verlander
I don't think it would have
there?
to be 10 years for Verlander. I think
neither do I, but I'm just saying,
8 years
if we're
tops,
giving him,
barring
he's going to
injuries.
stick around and compile for another 10 years, and it would really be compiling for 4 or 5 years after that. I think he's done enough already, and so the next 4 years or 5 years is really just going to cement what he's going to the Hall of Fame for. I think the 300 win thing, we've discussed this. The 300 win thing has to go. Eventually, it's got to go.
The standard does.
The standard. It's not a measure of how good a pitcher was because, you listen to guys like Brian Kenny, and now they want to abolish the win completely. They don't even think that it's a remotely accurate stat to assess a pitcher by.
Yeah, not
So
everybody is
the value of the win is decreasing.
Not everybody is an old hoss Radborn these days.
I think 20 years, 215 wins, or 18-year career, 17-year career, and 250 wins is going to be the new 300. You get to that number, you're probably going to go nowadays. Felix Hernandez, there's a guy that we haven't really talked about. He's 166 on the all-time list. Felix Hernandez, 14 years in, 32 years old. That's 134 more wins for a guy who's currently struggling.
Oh, yeah, struggling is a nice way of putting it for him. He's having a rough year. It's been a rough few years for him.
14 years this kid has been around. 14 years.
Oh, he was another one. He came up as a teenager, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
19 years old.
Yeah, 18. It would have him as an 18-year-old here. It could have.
his
birthday could have overlapped.
19 years
when he
old
came
when he
up.
made his major league debut.
So he's in it.
2005.
He's currently in his 14th year. So 13 years complete, 32 years old. That's 19. Yeah. That's crazy.
And he's sitting at a 5.33 ERA.
He's
6-4 record right now.
We talked about him, I think, having to get to that CC Sabathia. Tom Glavine is another good example. That epiphany that you don't have 95 in the tank anymore. You don't have the devastating braking stuff anymore. You don't have the ability to change speeds 15 miles an hour like you used to be able to change speeds 15 miles an hour.
Bartolo Colon, again, is a great example of that.
But he makes it move.
He does.
He makes it move.
When he first
and he's
came
still
up,
throwing 92, 93.
When he first came up, I believe it was with the Montreal Expos.
Bartolo Colon?
Yeah.
I know that he wasn't.
I believe it was with the Expos.
I'm pretty sure that he was an Indian first.
I thought he was an Indian after that.
Maybe. Dave, you got to
could be
verify
wrong.
that out there
Dave
for
can
us.
confirm that for us. But regardless, that's not the point. But Bartolo Colon was a power pitcher when he came up in his younger years. And yeah, he makes the ball move a lot now, and he's another guy. We're so far removed from it, it's kind of hard to remember, but he's another guy that completely reinvented himself.
Yeah, Dave,
Many
if you're
years
out
ago.
there listening, I just remember Bartolo Colon, Manny Ramirez, Carlos Baerga, Kenny Lofton, Jim Tomei. Dude, how does that team not win? Ouch. Sorry, Dave.
Yeah, that team was ridiculous.
Harkening back to the 95,
Jose
94,
Mesa closing
96, 97.
games.
Yeah, Jose Mesa, El Presidente, Dennis Martinez, and Sandy Alomar as kind of role players.
Charles Nagy was one of their good starters back then.
Chad OJ. Albert Bell.
Albert Bell.
Yes, Albert Bell. Forgot about Albert Bell. Running in and out of audio range. I'm sorry, Dave. It's sad that you're going to miss this right now because we're just totally going nuts on the Cleveland Indians of the past. Oh, buddy. Just, remember to just come watch us again, because if you're looking to watch us again, tell your friends that you can watch us again on Facebook, on YouTube, we're on Twitch, and also you can catch us and all the other great content out there in the Disruption family at disruptionnetwork.net. So check everybody out.
That's the great thing about this is that if you miss the live broadcast, you can still check out us in any show.
And you can still hit the share button.
I do that all
at
the
any
time,
time.
actually.
So if you're out there listening right now, hit the
EC
share.
Radio, for example, I'll be busy during the day, and then later on at night, I'll hang out around the house before bedtime, and I'll tune in and check out the show from earlier in the day. So
I was listening to Ease Beats and Bizz the other day.
Bizz, the D-Line.
I listen to EC Radio pretty much live, but
all the shows are available.
We got
on
a
the
great family here, a great family, and I'm happy to promote all the members of our family as they do the same thing for us. So get out there and check out all the really great content. Home Free with Adeline Van Dyke, EC Radio with our boy Anthony Z. Donaldson,
Sir Anthony
and
Donaldson.
Chicken, and then in football season, I hope to make a couple apperances on the D line this year. I hope to have enough time.
I went on the show. I went on the D-Line a whole bunch, actually.
That's our football podcast for all you football heads out there.
Before we even started the baseline, I went on the D-Line a whole bunch of times, filled in for Caleb as kind of the third co-host a few times, and he was unavailable due to other obligations. And it's fun, man. Of course, sitting here and talking baseball with you is awesome, and going on EC Radio occasionally, whenever that may be, whenever I got a minute to do that. I always love doing that, and the D-Line, and then, you mentioned all the awesome content, so check that out at our website, disruptionnetwork.net, on the Facebook page, YouTube, you can check out all the podcasts, and great content, all sorts of different stuff. No matter what, there's something that will be in your wheelhouse for sure, so check it out. So let's go to the rundown now. Let's go through some standings and kind of check through some leaders and some things that have happened, and some notable changes that may have happened around Major League Baseball. Boston, you mentioned, still in first place. The Yankees.
Nothing's
Boston,
changing there.
both winning games still.
So it's a difference of a game, but the Yankees have also played games less. 40-18 and 43-19, and really have run away with the division. It's official. It's only the first week of June, and they're running away and hiding. 14 games back of the Red Sox is the Rays at 28-32, and slip sliding away because they're about to be sellers really soon, and we've talked about that multiple times in the last couple shows. The Blue Jays, surprisingly, with what seems to be a better team and a more intact team than the Tampa Bay Rays, the Blue Jays sit there currently in 5th, and the Orioles not doing too well. 4th, I mean, and the Orioles sitting down there in 5th at 19-41. Currently, the worst team in Major League Baseball. And we knew that they were going to stay there. So they're going to be sellers too very soon, I would assume.
17.5 games out of first place.
23 games out of first place.
23 games out of first
for the Orioles.
17.5 out of the wild card right now. So 17.5 out of a playoff spot. 23 games out of first place.
Look at you. You got fancy standings over
and that's
there. You got the wild card game. I got to go on the site.
And that's actually
fancier
after,
standings than
that's
me.
after they've won 2 games in a row, too.
I want to talk to management about this. New wild card games back. It's June, SPG. Come on with that. Giving shitty teams hope. That's all you're doing.
Only 17.5 back, Baltimore.
So the Red Sox and the Yankees class of that division, class of the AL, along with the Mariners, the first place Mariners and the Astros. The Astros are currently 1 game back over there on the AL West. Not skipping over the Central, but there's not much to report. The Tigers are in 2nd place, 4.5 games out of the 4 games over 500. Cleveland Indians, the aforementioned Indians, the Indians that get a lot of mention for a New York show. We're not a New York show. I'm only fooling. We keep the homerism at home. So the Indians sitting there, first place. The ship has righted. They're 7-3 in their last 10. That lineup is disgusting. The pitching is solid in the front end. The bullpen will figure it out. The Tigers are going to be awful. The Twins are sinking. The Royals are awful. The White Sox are a AAA farm club.
Bright future, but the future is not now.
No, not for anybody in that division. So we'll skip over this.
As Yogi Berra said, the future ain't what it used to be.
No, it's definitely not. Nobody goes there anymore. Place is too crowded. We might get to Yogi Berra.
You're going to hear Yogi's name on the show later, I think.
And they give you cash.
Should we preview our 7th inning
Which
stretch?
is just as good as
a
money.
Little hint on what we're doing?
You know what? Let's do that in the middle of the rundown. I'm going to get to the AL West, and before we go over to the senior circuit, we'll talk about our 7th inning stretch, because it's honestly, I'm looking forward to the 7th inning stretch more so than
it's a very different one.
It's
than
different.
Anything we've done.
I'm glad we came up with it. AL West, the Mariners, like we said, 38-23, 7-3 in their last 10. 623 in June for the Mariners that lost their all-star second baseman a month ago.
Sitting in first place.
Over
the Houston Astros.
Over the defending champion.
And I know you said it's June and talking about wild card and all that.
Oh, I know. But
as Yankees fans, how scary would that be if the playoffs started today?
Playoffs?
The New York Yankees and the Houston Astros would be playing a 1-game wild card playoff game.
All hands on deck. It's going to be, I can't say that because it's going to be Verlander versus Sevy.
Yeah.
It's just, that's what dreams are made of, SPG. Baseball dreams. That is not the way that you make a Yankees fan's day right there. By telling them
after going through a long 162 grueling season, 162 games, how just tense and ridiculous would a Houston Astros New York Yankees 1-game playoff be? I hope it doesn't come to that.
Well, what about the fact, how about this, just to highlight on that a little bit, what about the fact that one of the teams in the AL East is going to have to play a play-in game? The Red Sox or the Yankees.
Yeah.
One of those they could both juggernaut their way through the rest of the season, as they're doing right now. 694 and 690 winning percentages over there.
The second best team in baseball might be playing a
one-game
play-in.
And then no matter who you're going against their ace.
Yeah.
So you're going to go against, it could be the Indians, and you could be playing against Corey Kluber. I don't see the Indians not winning that division, but I'm just saying. It could be James Paxton with the Mariners. It could be Shohei Ohtani. there's some stuff going to be happening come September, my man.
Ohtani, speaking of Ohtani, you see he's got a blister.
Yeah, he's on the Rich Hill diet.
I was going to say he's been hanging out with Rich Hill too much in Southern California.
Hang nails.
I think that's what Ohtani translates to.
Listen, when we get our,
Hill.
I'm throwing one on the loop list. All right, because when we get our loop going, I want the lady from Happy Gilmore saying my fingers hurt. we gotta have that just for Rich Hill and now Shohei Ohtani, showing a little caution with him, still letting him hit though. Apparently, it doesn't affect him hitting because he's got the gloves on. So they're letting him hit as per the norm, but they're going to hold him back. Is he skipping a start? Do you know that?
I believe he is, yeah. I believe they're going to hold him back for a start.
I figured as much. It makes kind of perfect sense for them. As much as they're babying him, it makes perfect sense for them.
They've won
to do that
4
for
in a row now, too. The Angels have won 4 in a row. I mean, they're still 4 games behind Seattle, but they've kind of righted the ship a little bit because they were struggling for a while.
They were, but great manager, best player in a game, a guy that hits home runs and throws 100. Bullpen is sketchy there. The bullpen is sketchy.
Yeah, it's been a problem for years.
You know, Kenyon Middleton seemed to have it.
He kind of solidified that back end of that bullpen and
kind of righted, and then
just like that, he's gone.
Now Blake Parker and Cam Bedrosian just not able to get it done in the back half of that bullpen.
Parker's turned it around a little bit. I think he's got an ERA under 3 now, and
Caleb
he's turned it around a little bit. But yeah, Bedrosian, Jim Johnson there at the back end of the
former
bullpen.
closer for the Atlanta Braves.
He's always iffy. I mean, he'll have a good outing or two, and then he'll just go out there and give up 3-4 runs in an inning. So yeah, that back end of that bullpen there is definitely scary.
We got to get Caleb on to talk about the Angels at some point in time too. I don't have the comments in front of me, so if you're sitting there monitoring the feed, let me know who's out there checking in with us. So yeah, the Angels out there doing their thing still, kind of hanging tough. Exactly what you kind of expect for the All-Stars that they got on that team. Athletics every single week. Every week that we do an update and rundown of the standings, the Oakland Athletics are
hovering around 500.
500, but 7.5 games back of the Mariners and 6.5 back of the defending champion Astros. That's going to come down to the Astros, Mariners, and Angels, in my opinion. I picked the Mariners out of that scenario. I picked the Astros to win the AL West, but I picked the Mariners out of that scenario at the beginning of the year to win.
You did. That looks like a pretty good pick. I think I had the Angels second place.
But then in a strange move, maybe because I like to hedge, and I want to get at least one right. You remember, like, The Price is Right, where, do I have at least one number right? You'd have to ask. Yeah, so I wanted to have at least one right. In a very strange move, I have Mike Scioscia as my AL Manager of the Year. So if they're able to kick the Spurs and get up the standings, maybe that looks like a good move for me, especially if the voters look at his handling of the Ohtani situation as favorable. But I will say, before we jump into the NL, my NL Manager of the Year pick is looking solid, more solid by the day.
Who was that? Who'd you pick? Craig? Was it Craig Counsell?
Craig Counsell.
Yeah, it is looking really good.
How good do the Brewers look right now? 5-5 in their last 10. So a little bit skidding, but that team looks like it. Like we said last time, they're going to be buyers. No selling or keeping it neutral for the Brewers. This is a do or die time for.
They have lost 3 games in a row.
I know.
And the Chicago Cubs
they're
have
sliding.
won a couple in a row. They're only a half a game back. But, yeah, overall, it's been...
I still think that both those teams are...
It's been a very successful campaign so far for Milwaukee.
The Braves will be in the mix. But, yeah, we're going to talk about our 7th inning stretch that we got coming up in a little while. Where tonight we're going to give our 7 best, our 7 most interesting, most... zany, craziest,
most
eccentric,
interesting characters in the history of baseball.
Characters known for on-field antics
and define characters however you'd like. Interesting, extraordinary people in the game of baseball. So we'll get to that later on. So that's going to be a fun one to do. And there's a whole bunch of fun players to talk about and funny stories that we'll be covering and talking about through that segment later on. So getting into the leaders. Are we going to do some league leaders here, JP?
League leaders. Yeah.
Not a ton has changed, really.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like it has. Matt Kemp still leading the National League in batting at 3-4.
Who would have thought that before the season?
Not me.
He's one that was on the 3-up list last week or last. I don't know if it was last show or the one before that.
Yeah.
And he's continued it on. So
he's.
I didn't curse him, at least. He's still going.
But yeah, Matt Kemp over there in the National League leading in, hitting at 349. Scooter Gennett having a fantastic year. Potential trade target from the Cincinnati Reds. Just having an epic year so far for Scooter Gennett. If we were doing, and by the way, worth mentioning, next show we're going to run down our all-star ballots, each of us, let you know who we got starting at each position and then what pitchers we would take for our respective
and there'll
teams.
be real all-star ballots that we'll be submitting in the.
Maybe you should do the American League. You give me your starters for the American League and your pitchers that you're going to be taking and the way you would build a team to go out and win. Not that the All-Star game has anything tied into it like it used to. But
I'm glad they don't do that anymore.
Me too.
I'd never liked the whole home field advantage based on the All-Star game.
No, it didn't make sense to give somebody that won 88 games in a wild card home field advantage over somebody that won 103 games in a division. It doesn't. So I'm glad that that's gone too. But the only thing that I truly liked about it was it was a way that the Bud Selig decision didn't happen anymore, where they just decided, you know what, the All-Star game's not worth a shit, and we're gonna cut it off. It's a tie, right? Just totally dismissed it as if it weren't anything and left everybody hanging, and that was really a sour taste for me. Anyway, if you can't tell by how strongly worded I'm being right now,
especially with how many players are on the rosters and how they do it, where a pitcher goes out there and pitches 2 innings or whatever.
Well, they didn't do that. So
you got plenty of people on that roster to keep playing if it goes into extra innings. If you manage it right, expand the rosters.
Yeah. The one thing that I don't like about this process is the fan voting. I mean, I love the fan voting, okay? But I think that it should be a percentage. I think that it should account for a percentage, and then player voting should enter into it.
That would be cool.
I think that the players should be allowed to vote for each other. And
or at the very least, I think right now what they do is like the last 2 or 3 are up to like the extra fan vote or whatever they call it. I forget what they call it, the last 2 in.
Well, the fans vote in the starters
or whatever.
too.
Yeah, they vote in the starters too, but instead of making that last, portion of it, the last couple guys in, and it's all over social media, and players and teams are promoting their stars to make the All-Star team that are on that last couple players voting list. That'd be a good start, is make that like a players vote. At least the last few guys on the roster, okay, players vote now for these few. But I agree, players should have a more of a say in that, and that's a weekend for the players and fans, and it'd be cool to, maybe you get some veterans in there that you wouldn't expect to be on the All-Star team that are just that well respected around baseball amongst their peers, that they just want them to come hang out with them at the ballpark on All-Star weekend.
I'll tell you what.
So I agree completely that the players should have more of a say of course you have to involve the fans. It's a fan thing too. But the players should have some kind of say in getting players into the All-Star game.
Well, I mean, not that this is happening this year, but the problem with the fans voting in the starters is, let's say Daniel Murphy. There's a guy that's been on the DL since the beginning of the year. Let's just say Daniel Murphy carries as much weight as Derek Jeter, okay? The fans can vote Derek Jeter in to the All-Star game as a starter, or Daniel Murphy. Been on the DL the entire season. They vote him in as a starter. He's credited with an All-Star appearance, hasn't swung a bat. Or somebody could be hitting 220 with 150 strikeouts on it.
Yeah, it's actually happening this year. I don't know if you saw it.
I haven't really looked at the voting.
It
just began, I believe,
the Dan
last
Levitard
week.
show on ESPN.
The U, baby, the U.
So yeah,
Dan Levitard, if you're out there watching, a big fan.
And he's got a great show.
He does.
He
It's
really
a wonderful.
does.
Listen,
So
someday,
Dan Levitard right now.
Someday, me and you, it's gonna be just like that. I promise.
I really like the not to go on a Levitard tangent.
No,
here,
please
but
do. University of Miami grad.
I really like the he looks like segment that they do. That is some of the funniest stuff I've ever heard on radio.
Yes.
The so and so looks like this. They had a debate one day amongst themselves. Stu Gatz and Dan Levitard and a couple of the other guys that come on the show.
It's the Dan Levitard show with the Stugatz.
If Keith Hernandez, former Met legend Keith Hernandez.
Oh, they were going at it.
They were saying, does he look more like a helicopter pilot or a cruise ship captain? That was the big debate, and I just laughed so hard at that.
And they go into detail.
I love that
too.
show, too.
I do too.
So
and
Dan
he had
Levitard's
a big tiff with Dan Patrick a couple weeks ago too. So yes, Dan Levitard. Check out University of Miami graduate Dan Levitard.
And that's such a unique, funny show. It's awesome. But so Dan Levitard, speaking of how this ties into all-star voting and all that, and getting somebody who's batting .220, like you said. So he's trying to get Lewis Brinson, the Marlins outfielder that they got in the Christian Yelich trade over the winter.
Uh-huh.
He's trying to get Lewis Brinson voted into the All-Star game with a 161 batting average. And that's the type of stuff that can happen when there's a fan vote.
So it's an
things
exploitation of what's going on.
It is, and you see it in hockey all the time.
The shock effect.
A few years back, John Scott, a hockey player, he was just known as a fighter. Barely any production offensively, no goals, no assists. He got voted in as a starter for the NHL All-Star game. He ends up winning MVP of the game. But you see weird anomalies like that, where especially in the social media day and age, where you just have these ridiculous viral campaigns to get underperforming players into the All-Star game. And it is kind of funny to see sometimes. But at the same time, that's taken a spot away from somebody who is deserving of it.
When was the year that the Cubs, at one point in the voting, had the entire infield? And some of the outfield. Do you remember they had like 7 starters at one point in the voting?
You used to see that with the Kansas City Royals too. The couple of years where they lost the World Series and won the World Series, where they had very good few years.
Yeah, Woodwork.
A couple of years, it was all Kansas City Royals.
The Woodwork fans, they all came out
in the AL starting.
No, I'll give them credit. That's a good baseball city. They got what they deserved. It was a long time.
They needed it
that.
too at that point.
They did. We've talked before that I don't necessarily agree with their handling of their situation right now. I thought that they could have done a better job to keep that very young core around already without doing a rebuild. I understand how much money it would have cost, but you could have reaped the rewards on the back end, especially considering look how weak that Central is right now. They could have hung around. They could have had the pieces, add pieces instead of subtracting. Guys like Moustakas that they bring back.
Going back a few years,
but you don't bring back Locaine, who's having an amazing year right now. I don't know. I think that
going back a couple of years ago too. Will Myers actually came up as part of the Kansas City Royals organization. Not that he's doing anything this year, but at the time he was considered one of the top couple prospects in baseball.
And he had a couple good years with
San Diego. And he's still young too. And I think he'll be fine as a major leaguer. He might not be just a ridiculous superstar that people thought he could be back then, but he could be an all-star player for sure.
I'll tell you what strikes me as what I remember about the Kansas City Royals in recent times that would tie in with that ability to vote. The Kansas City Royals have, since the beginning of this fan page thing, the Kansas City Royals have been at like the forefront of social media. Like really, really good at their social media. It's one of the first Instagram accounts I ever followed in terms of baseball teams. And for the longest time, I mean, as stated, I'm a Yankee fan. And for the longest time, the Yankees didn't even use Instagram. And I had been following the Kansas City Royals for almost 2 years. So easy when you have a marketing department that cares about your demographics and about your team and getting those guys voted in, it's easy to get a rallying cry for your team, right? So it makes perfect sense that you say that about the Kansas City Royals being out there all the time and voting for your team. Go vote for your favorite player. If you're a baseball fan out there, you like to watch Major League Baseball, get out, vote, use your right to vote those players in as starters, and go get them into the All-Star game, especially if you're one of those teams with the also ran.
Go vote.
Yes, get them on there. It's important. The game. Well, hold on one second.
Yeah, go vote. Get out there. Go to games. Actually, speaking of, I'm going to the Yankees game a week from this Saturday. I'm going to be at Yankee Stadium.
I forgot about that, actually.
For the first time in a couple of years. I haven't been down there in a couple of years, so I'm looking forward to it. They're playing the Tampa Bay Rays, so interdivisional game. I haven't seen if there's any kind of expected starting pitching matchup yet or anything, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We've got front row seats out in left field by the bullpen, actually.
Do you know who's scheduled?
I don't. I wish I did. I haven't looked. I should try to figure it out, even if it's not posted. You could probably at this point, it's 10 days away or something, or 9 days away. You could probably kind of figure out who's the expected starting pitcher.
So we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna finish up looking down this rundown here. We got to the NL leaders in batting average with Matt Kemp, Scooter Gennett, Freddie Freeman still up amongst the league leaders at 338, having a great year. Nick Markakis dropped off a little bit from the 345, 350 pace that he was at. Good for a 328 clip right now. Nolan Arenado, Mr. Roboto, still hanging amongst the league leaders in average at 327, and we're going to be talking about him in a few minutes here. The AL batting average leader, nothing that you can say more so than he's the best player in the game right now, playing at at this level this year, based on the stats, and that's Mookie Betts at 359. Don't mean to contradict any other things that I've said over the last few weeks on this show about Mike Trout, because if we're ranking the best players, which Sean and I have talked about, I'm still going to put Mike Trout up among up number one. I am, but right now, in terms of years, if the MVP voting was right now, it would be Mookie Betts. Mookie Betts at 359, Gene Segura at 339, having a great year out there for Seattle. Shortstop Nicholas Castellanos, now qualified, I believe. He wasn't on this list because he needed some ABs to qualify, but having an outstanding year and maybe another potential trade target for the future selling Detroit Tigers at 333. Jose Altuve, the man, the two-time batting champion, or three-time batting champion at 332, and Andrelton Simmons still holding up the rear there at 330. Over to AL, the home run leaders. J.D. Martinez, the first one to 20 in the league. Mike Trout, Jose Ramirez both with 19, and Manny Machado 18, and the Joey Gallo, the thing that is Joey Gallo, the three-outcome player in Major League Baseball with 17 of those home runs. Bryce Harper with 18, Christian Villanueva with 15, Javi Baez 14, Travis Shaw 14, and Ozzie Albies of the upstart Atlanta Braves.
Look at Travis Shaw there with 14 homers. He's having a nice season for
Milwaukee. That's a good pickup for Milwaukee, and he's a cog now in that machine that is the Milwaukee Brewers. They're gonna catch fire. I think
they acquired him from the Red Sox.
Not that they're already
not years ago.
I mean, I know they lost 3 straight, but not that they already haven't been hot. But
they got Shaw.
That team's gonna be good.
I forget who it was. It was a relief pitcher that was just constantly hurt that they traded for Travis Shaw, the Milwaukee Brewers.
John Axford.
It was not John Axford. I forget who it was.
I mean, that's the first one that came to mind.
I forget who it was,
Brewers.
but that was a heck of a trade for the Milwaukee Brewers to bring Travis Shaw in there, and he's having a good year.
He's having a great year. Ozzie Albies, your boy, still down there, tied for third with 14. J.D. Martinez, who we already mentioned as leading the league in home runs with 20, 52 RBIs, June 7th. 52. That's a good pace, right? Manny Machado.
Good, right?
Could be wearing another hat by the end of the year. Maybe by the end of next month, could be wearing a different hat. 49 RBIs. Did the Baltimore Orioles score 150 runs this year? Because he's probably got half of the run or the RBIs for the team. And I know I'm poking at the Orioles again. Sorry if we got any O's fans out there, but you know how bad it is.
It just makes
if you're
it
an
more,
O's fan, you know how bad it is.
It makes it more incredible the RBI numbers that Manny Machado is able
I
to put
know,
up.
49
so
RBIs. It's June 6th. How many runs could they have possibly scored in Maryland? None. Manny Machado, the man. Chris Davis, 44 in Oakland. Eddie Rosario in Minnesota, and Mitch Haniger tied at 43. Over in the NL, Javi Baez, Eugenio Suarez, Scooter Gennett, Freddie Freeman, and Anthony Rizzo, 46, 45, 44, 43, and 42. AL wins leaders, the Klubot, Corey Kluber. Maybe the best pitcher in the AL right now. Certainly in the conversation, had a fantastic start earlier in the week. 9 wins. Luis Severino, another guy that had another great start. With 9 also. Rick Porcello with the first place Boston Red Sox with 8. Justin Verlander also might be the best pitcher in the league right now, as we've talked about already. Kate Upton's husband with 7. And Jose Barrios with 7 as well. Mad Max leading Major League Baseball and the senior circuit with 10. It's June 7th. Can he get to 25? Aaron Nola with 7. Miles Mikolas, Michael Wacha, both with the Cardinals
Michael
with
Wacha,
7.
who lost a no-hitter in the 9th inning last week.
Michael Wacha.
How about Sean Newcomb?
Waka.
Sean Newcomb with 7 wins.
We talked about him.
Young Atlanta Braves
We
pitcher.
talked about him. The Braves are looking like they could be legit. And I had said a couple times so far this season, in our 11-episode history, I've said a couple times that you expect the Braves to kind of even out. It's a year ahead of time, but maybe they are this year's Yankees. A game away from the World Series type, and only going to add pieces. There are so many pieces under organizational control. That payroll is under control. You got Freddie Freeman locked up. Ozzie Albies, Ronald Acuna, Mike Foltynewicz.
Yep. Acuna's hitting off a tee, and he should be back, it looks like, within a few weeks if he doesn't have a setback.
That's the Acuna update right there.
The Ronald Acuna update.
Yeah, I like it.
By the way, Baltimore Orioles, 218 runs scored this season.
218 runs scored, and that dude's got 50 RBIs.
Yeah, what's that
50.
tell you?
50.
That's not even including the runs.
He's got a
scored
quarter.
on top of it.
A quarter of their runs have been driven in by Manny Machado. Somebody snatch this dude up. Prospects are nothing. Trade him. Sign him. Lock him up. Put asses in the seats and let this dude drive in 150 friggin' runs for the next 10 years for you. Do it. He's a stud. I almost let one slip, but I didn't. Speaking of not letting any slip, Justin Verlander, the AL ERA leader at 1.24, Corey Kluber at 1.96, Luis Severino, again, having a fantastic year at 2.20. At any other year in June in the AL, you're 9-1 at 2.20. You are definitely starting the All-Star game. I think that 1.24 dazzling ERA is probably going to be starting the All-Star game for Justin Verlander.
I think so. I would have to agree.
Garrett Cole at 2.20, and the new ace of the Tampa Bay Rays, Mr. Blake Snell.
One of the best young lefties in the game.
Emerging as one of the best young pitchers.
He's cut that walk rate
period.
down. That was the big problem with him. He was one of the top-ranked prospects in baseball the last couple of years. Came up and had some struggles early, and last year kind of ironed some of that out, and this year it's really all coming together for him. So Blake Snell at 2.36.
2.36. It's 6.7 right now. It's June 7th. So Blake Snell, keep him on your radar. If he's got to be, 85% owned, 90% owned in Yahoo Baseball, something like that.
I would think.
Right? 10% of leagues
that
out
up
there.
too.
If for whatever reason Blake Snell is not picked up and added in your league, I don't know, maybe somebody saw the Tampa Bay next to his name and said, you know what, I'm going to stay away. Pick Blake Snell up. Get to know him. Get to know that left-handed stud that's down there in St. Pete. Because he is worth watching. Your NL ERA
He's
leaders.
just a thorn in the side for the Boston Red Sox, too. Anytime he faces the Boston Red Sox, he just pitches lights out.
Good.
Yeah, it's great.
Makes me happy. Jacob deGrom, a sparkling 1.49. Max Scherzer at 1.95 with 10 wins. 10-1, I believe Max Scherzer is. 10-1, 1.95. That's crazy. It's just crazy.
Yep, just steamrolling towards another side.
Miles Mikolas with 2.27. Gio Gonzalez tied with him. And Mike Foltynewicz lowering his ERA again to 2.31.
Another great young Atlanta pitcher.
Outstanding start last week against the Boston Red Sox.
Julio Teheran just went on the DL too, I believe. So I think you might start seeing some of those more, more high potential, high ceiling guys with the Atlanta Braves getting some chances.
Bring them up.
Whether it's Gohara or whether Soroka's
why keep them at Gwinnett? Why leave them down at Gwinnett?
When they're winning games, too. I mean, they are
bring them up.
Contending for the division right now.
Absolutely. Bring them up. Let them play. Start the clock. Now's as good a time as ever. If you're that rich down there, bring them up. You're hanging out. You don't have to go spend money right away if you got that kind of wealth. There's not a terrible amount out there that's going to come at a cheap price that's any good. Okay? Not in my opinion. The Michael Fulmers, who's not, that's not a dominant, he might not be a franchise-changing guy. The price tag on Michael Fulmer is going to be through the roof because of the control. Because you got a 23-year-old kid that's under control for the next 4 years at $600,000 a year. And he's going to command a high price of prospects from some team out there. And there isn't a lot of guys out there available for not a whole lot. Cole Hamels. Is that a franchise changer? He might be somebody that they can jump on as a third starter, the Braves, or anybody, as a third or fourth starter, but that's not the horse that's taking you to the promised land. There's not those guys out there available for cheap.
No, not unless
the Braves don't have to.
For some reason, surprisingly, Madison Bumgarner was traded. I don't see any top level like what.
Yeah, but that's a huge haul.
Like what Verlander
right?
does.
That's a huge haul
last year. I don't see any of those dominant ace number one guys that you can pick up right now.
No.
They're just not there. There's some good solid arms.
Yeah, Danny Duffy's.
Tyson Ross.
Those guys.
San Diego.
Yeah, those are the guys. The Dylan Bundys. There's no aces out there unless you're going to pay the price. And the Braves don't need to pay the price because they're a year ahead. And I see them taking the same approach that the Yankees did by not going out and going crazy 2 years ago. They didn't go crazy. They sold. They stayed competitive, but they sold. They realized that, maybe now's not the time where we need to add. Maybe we can stay competitive without adding. And maybe the Braves can do the same thing, just within the organization, because that organization is rich in young talent. And Mike Foltynewicz, certainly proof of that. Your AL saves leader, Edwin Diaz, with 21 with the first-place Seattle Mariners. So obviously they're playing some close games out there in Seattle, and he's coming in and slamming the door shut. Craig Kimbrell, maybe one of the best closers in the game. Not maybe, he is. 19 saves for the Boston Red Sox. Aroldis Chapman with 15. A one-pitch or two-pitch save the other night. That's killer. When the guy ahead of you in fantasy baseball has Aroldis Chapman.
It wasn't me.
And you're a Yankee fan. You want Aroldis Chapman to come in and get the save, obviously, right? But the one pitch or two pitch.
In the back of your mind, you're thinking, 12 points.
For spending a third of an inning. Especially if he strikes them out, that's 12 points. 12 points for a third of an inning. If you make 36-point innings your career, you're going to beat everybody at fantasy baseball. It's just going to happen. So that was painful to watch the other night, but Aroldis Chapman with 15 saves here in June. Shane Green with the Sellers Detroit Tigers. I just think they're going to be pilfered, the Tigers. They're going to lose half their roster. Keone Kela out there in Texas holding it down with 14 saves. For somebody that was a big-time question mark coming into the season about getting that job, Keone Kela, 14 saves.
Keone Kela has not blown a save this year. He's 14 for 14
outstanding
save chances.
Good pickup for Dave. I believe Dave picked him up off the waiver wire. Wade Davis, 20 out there in Colorado where nobody can get it done but Wade Davis. And Greg Holland, who can't get it done anymore. Brad Hand with 18, potential trade target, Brad Hand. Brandon Morrow.
With 18, and the team has only won 29 games.
Brandon Morrow, yeah, so it shows you how, every single time I tune in to scores or updates, and I'm looking at the Padres, 2-1, 4-3.
Brad Hand had a 2-out save.
1-0.
I don't know if it was last night or the night before. He had a 2-out save last time he pitched.
It's just crazy. They don't score.
Speaking of Halls, if they trade him, which if they were smart, they'd put him on the market just because
It's an Andrew Miller.
his
That's an
value
Andrew
is
Miller
at.
haul. That's an Aroldis Chapman, Glaber Torres haul.
That's
what that is.
Potentially
Clint Frazier,
a franchise-changing haul for a relief pitcher.
Clint Frazier, and I believe Billy McKinney came over in that trade, or did Billy McKinney come over in the Carlos Beltran trade for Andrew Miller?
I think McKinney was Chapman. I think he was with the Cubs.
Yeah, he was with the Cubs.
Yeah.
Yep. So Billy McKinney and Glaber Torres come over in one trade there, and then they got Adam Warren back. So potentially, or realistically, you turned Brendan Ryan into Glaber Torres. That's good, right? He's already hit more career home runs than Brendan Ryan. If I had to go out on a limb, I would say the numbers are alarmingly close. Your AL wins above replacement leader. WAR wins above replacement. It's such a war. Such a violent.
What is it good for?
Absolutely nothing. Mike Trout, 5.5 wins
No
above
change
replacement.
there. Mike Trout's going to be leading the majors in WAR for the whole season.
Yeah. Well, he can't get caught the way it looks right now.
Yeah.
Maybe the hamster can catch him at 4.2. Mookie Betts been on the shelf a little bit. He's at 4.1. Francisco Lindor, another Cleveland Indian, 3.6. And Andrelton Simmons, 3.3. Freddie Freeman, 3.1. Low Kane, 3.0. 3 wins above replacement for Low Kane in Milwaukee. And Brandon Belt, 2.6. Brandon Belt on the DL now?
Yeah, he had appendicitis,
Yeah.
so he's on the DL right now.
So we wish him well. That's a pretty Brandon Belt thing to do. No offense to your appendix, but just seems to be about the time that Brandon Belt be doing his thing. Scooter Gennett, 2.5, and Travis Shaw, the aforementioned, 3-time mentioned Milwaukee Braves. Listen to me. Wow.
Blast from the past.
Woo!
There.
1968 called. It wants its analyst back. Travis Shaw, Milwaukee Brewers, 2.5.
So
wins above replacement.
Andrelton Simmons actually also just went on the DL too. So that's a pretty big loss for the Angels.
That's a really big loss.
He is one of the most underrated players in the game, I think.
Well, what he
With
does on
everything he does,
what he does on the
field.
defensive side. All right, the numbers are easy to go and look at for somebody. If you want to see their offensive value to a team, they're easy. Baseball Reference, Baseball Almanac, ESPN, Yahoo. You can go look at those numbers. They're tangible. You can look at them. How a guy's hitting, how a guy's producing. Now, there's defensive metrics that you can go and look at. Sure. Okay. A lot of stuff you probably wouldn't understand. I don't understand it. And I'm a baseball guy. I don't understand a lot of that, the range metrics and defensive WAR. I understand that a little bit. Defensive runs saved. So there's metrics out there for defenders, but if you're not watching the Angels all the time, you probably don't understand how incredibly valuable Andrelton Simmons is playing shortstop there.
And
just incredible. He gets the balls that he shouldn't.
That's not understating what he does offensively either. He's batting 330 this year.
Yes, absolutely.
34 RBI, getting
certainly
on base
not
at 400.
But you can go and look at those numbers to see Andrelton Simmons' value to that team. But the defense is almost just as big as getting him over there. So yeah, Andrelton Simmons, that's tough on him. So that's the rundown.
The rundown. That was brought to you by Priceless Inspections. A good quality home inspection is, JP?
Priceless.
Priceless. Call Josh Amodio at 315-525-8725 for your next home inspection. He provides in-depth and detailed reports, thorough inspections, and he pays attention to details. Josh has been in the construction business his whole life, and he knows the importance of a quality home inspection. Call Josh before you put your home on the market if you're looking to buy a home, or if you just want to update your home. Josh can do all that for you. Call him today at 315-525-8725. Priceless Inspections. Check him out.
So before we get into our 3 Up, 3 Down segment, I just want to go over something for the folks that might be in the Central New York area. Disruption Network is hosting a Grub and Gab, and that'll be Tuesday, June 26th, and that's 5 to 8 p.m. at Oh Baby's Gourmet Sandwich Shop, 4126 Oneida Street, New Hartford. So all part of it, there's going to be an eating contest, and in this eating contest, they're going to be setting the bar in the Goliath Challenge. And apparently the Goliath is like this sandwich that just has all sorts of stuff on it and 4 or 5 pounds of meat. I'm exaggerating. I don't know how much it really is, but there's going to be an eating contest at Oh Baby's Gourmet Sandwich Shop. All part of the Grub and Gab for Disruption Networks. Live broadcast, music by DJ Ease One, games, prizes, and a whole bunch of fun with the D Crew. Always sure to be a good time for Disruption Network events. So go check them out if you're in the Central New York area. That's a Grub and Gab at Oh Baby's Gourmet Sandwich Shop. Tuesday, June 26th, 5 to 8 p.m., 4126 Oneida Street in New Hartford. And now we are going to get into our fantasy baseball segment called 3 Up and 3 Down, where our resident fantasy baseball expert, SPG, gives us his 3 players to tend to go towards and maybe pick up in your fantasy leagues, and 3 players to stay away from who might not be doing so well. And there might be a curse tied in with this, so if you're out there and you're listening, pay attention to who he says and then watch it for us, and then chime in next time.
Let's see how bad these guys do for the next week on my 3 Up segment.
So who you got for your first one?
So I got Ben Zobrist. Ben Zobrist, he's been leading off for the Chicago Cubs. He's batting .310 just in the last 2 weeks. .310, 2 homers, 10 RBI, stolen base. He's playing just about every day. Second base and outfield eligible, so you get the dual eligibility. And he's only owned in 38% of leagues right now. So he definitely is realistically somebody you can pick up to help your team and plug him into second base, throw him in outfield utility. It looks like he's kind of wrestled some playing time away from the young Ian Happ that they have there. And the veteran's getting it done right now. So he's been hot in the last couple of weeks. So Ben Zobrist is first on my list. Second on the list is an Oakland Athletics power hitter, also multi-position eligible at first base and outfield, is Matt Olson. And he's owned in 82% of leagues. So he's not exactly widely available in fantasy baseball leagues, but there is a chance you could check it out and see if he got dropped, because he did get into a little slump a few weeks back. He was trending downward for a little bit, and there were some people that dropped him, I noticed, but he's on fire right now. He's batting .313, 5 homers and 12 RBIs in the last 2 weeks. And this is a guy that just went on an absolute tear last year at the end of the year when he got called up. He hit 24 homers and 189 at-bats. 24 home runs and 189 at-bats.
What does that project out to for an entire season?
It's ridiculous. I mean, you figure
500 bats.
You figure, you probably multiply that 189 by about 3 or so, to get between 500 and 600 at-bats. And you're looking at 60-something home run pace that he was on last year at the end of the year. And he hasn't had that much. I mean, obviously nobody can continue that pace, but he hasn't had that much success this season as far as the power numbers go. But in the last few days, he's really turned it on. I think he's hit 3 home runs in his last 4 games, and he's getting hot. So if somebody did drop Matt Olson, I would definitely be double checking the waiver wire.
Matt Olson
again too. He gives you first and outfield eligibility, so that's always valuable at the very least to keep on your bench and ride the hot streaks. Throw him in your lineup when he's hot, like he is right now.
Number 3,
we have a third baseman who is third in the major league in doubles. In the entire league, he is third in doubles. Miguel Andujar of the New York Yankees, another one of their very talented young players, rookie this year. He's only owned in 58% of leagues, and he is just on an absolute tear right now. I noticed he was added in 15% of leagues. He was up 15% in ownership just in the last day or two alone. And in the last 2 weeks, he's batting .378, 2 home runs, 9 RBI. And that's just in the last 2 weeks. And like I mentioned, he's up there near the leaders in doubles, and he's hitting the ball out of the park. And it really looks like he has locked down that job for good. with Brandon Drury still in the minor leagues, and he's getting regular playing time, and he's producing. He's become a key member of that team. So Miguel Andujar is the third of the three up. Three down, I have Zach Godley of the Arizona Diamondbacks, who last season had a 3.37 ERA, a 1.14 WHIP, and 9.6 Ks per nine. All-star type numbers. This year, they put the humidor in there. There's all sorts of hype surrounding Zach Godley. Everybody's predicting he's going to have a phenomenal year, including myself. I thought Zach Godley was going to have a very good year.
The humidor.
That hasn't
It's killing people.
It is. But you would think it would help a pitcher like Godley. It's not. He's having a bad year. I keep waiting for him to come out of this funk he's in, but he's currently sitting at a 5.12 ERA, a 1.57 WHIP, and less than a strikeout per inning. So I don't know what's going on there. Zach Godley last year was kind of a surprise, and maybe that was the outlier was the success he had last year. So Zach Godley is on the three down list, the first of the three down. Number two, a young Pittsburgh Pirate who I had high hopes for at the beginning of the season. First baseman Josh Bell. In the minors, had ridiculously good success, very good walk to strikeout rate for a hitter, low strikeouts, a lot of walks, decent power potential, and very high potential to be a high batting average guy. But this year it hasn't worked out for him in any aspect of it. He's driving in some runs. He had a decent April. May wasn't so kind to him. Still drove in some runs, and he's slumping pretty hard so far in June. He's only batting .237 with 4 homers in 33 RBI this season. That's a guy that had .255 average, 26 homers, and 90 RBIs last year. So hasn't worked out for Josh Bell. We'll see if he can maybe turn it around. He has been driving in runs, like I said, so there's at least some positive to his game, but overall, he's really not even worth owning at this point. And he's only 56% owned, and he's down 5% in the last day. So people are starting to cut ties with Josh Bell. And my third of the three up is somebody I alluded to earlier when we were talking about Houston Astros pitchers. And this is a pitcher that I drafted in our league this year, one of the most elite ground ball starting pitchers by reputation that there is in the game. And with that offense in Houston, I just thought he would be a very safe starting pitcher to draft. And he could still very well be, and he's 97% owned. So this is how much of a, I guess you'd say, star this guy is. 97% owned in fantasy baseball. He leads the majors in losses, and he's on the Houston Astros. 3-8 record. Dallas Keuchel, 4.31 ERA, a 1.22 WHIP, and his 7 strikeouts per 9 inning ratio is the lowest he has had in 4 years at this point. This is a guy that had a 2.9 ERA last year in 114 games on one of the best teams in the majors. So you got to think he turns it around, but it is frustrating.
I knew that's where you were going with it.
As a Dallas Keuchel owner, it is frustrating to see a guy like him with his ability going out there time and time again and not winning games when you've got that Houston lineup behind you.
Do you want to know how you fix Dallas Keuchel? You start him in the playoffs against the Yankees.
There you go. That's the remedy right there.
That's how you fix Dallas Keuchel, because he turns into Steve Carlton. Tough to see Dallas Keuchel like that, because honestly, he was one of the more dominant starters over a period of time in the last couple of years. I equate him with almost like a Corey Kluber, guys of that caliber.
He was a Cy Young winner,
right in the conversation for the last 5 years.
He's never been a huge strikeout guy.
No,
but he's had some decent numbers striking people out over the years. He's more of a ground ball pitcher. He pitches to contact, and if you look at the numbers, he's always number one or right up there on ground ball percentage by contact by hitters. So, yeah, it's disappointing as a Dallas Keuchel owner for sure. But you got to think at some point the luck will kind of turn back and he'll be getting some of those bounces. But we'll see. Who knows? It's an unpredictable game, JP. We never know. So that's it for 3 Up, 3 Down.
3 Up, 3 Down.
That's brought to you by Nick Pasalacqua and Associates. For legal help quick, you better call Nick. Call attorney Nick Pasalacqua and the team at Pasalacqua and Associates. 315-500-NICK. 315-500-NICK. CNYTrialLaw.com. And I think it's time for the 7th inning stretch.
You know, if I was so inclined on this board right here, I could hit, I don't know. Do you want to play? I won't do it. I was going to say that we could play God Bless America, the 7th inning stretch, just like they do in the Major League Baseball stadiums. And you and I could maybe get up and stretch legs and, but we'll save that for next time. We don't want people
I like the idea, though.
Have to
that
get
is
up
a good
and,
idea.
and
Just get up and stretch the legs a little bit.
Yeah, get up and stretch. Maybe we can sing Take Me Out to the Ball Game or something. Or do my very best Harry Carey impression.
Eat some Cracker Jacks, hang out for a few minutes.
Yeah. It's root for the Cubbies, right? At the 7th inning stretch, isn't that what we're supposed to say? No, we can't say that. But we are at our 7th inning stretch, my favorite part of the show, and we're going to get to probably my favorite topic, I think, that we've had so far. One of my favorite topics, anyway. We're going to talk about the best characters in Major League Baseball history. And by characters, we mean what, Sean? Zany,
eccentric. Interest, just generally interesting, funny, unusual, people that just made a mark on the game, and maybe not even necessarily people that made a mark on the game and just made an impression.
Yeah.
And are very unique.
I'm excited.
Very interesting personalities.
Yes. I'm sure that there's everybody out there in Facebook land, if you want to comment, who do you think's going to be on this list? Let us know in the comment section. Or who do you think should be on this list? Do you know an eccentric character out there that maybe deserves mentioning, like a Lenny Dykstra or somebody like that? Nails. If you got somebody out there that you think should be on this list, let us know as we're going along. But you want to start us off with your number 7?
My number 7 is a bit of a controversial character in baseball. One very well associated with the steroid era, and that's Manny Ramirez. Manny being Manny, I think.
Manny being Manny.
Manny being Manny.
That you went with that.
Is kind of what popped in my head, at least for this far down the list. Yeah, I didn't want to put him any higher because there was some controversy with him, too, that I wasn't a big fan of. But he was a very charismatic guy.
Yeah, I charismatic.
Being in the outfield
crazy.
In Fenway. Crazy, yeah, exactly.
Going in and taking a pee inside the Green Monster.
Going into the Green Monster and taking a pee and drinking water and then not coming out one time.
Listen, that exploded when he went to the Dodgers. That Manny being Manny thing.
Oh, it did, yeah.
It just exploded.
Going to L.A., yeah.
Yes.
And that's actually what I thought. I mean, I thought about a lot of specific things I thought about when he was with the Red Sox. But the first thing that popped in my head was just him being with the Dodgers. I think he wore number 99.
Yes, 99.
Just all out, just ridiculous. I don't even know what you would call it. Manny being Manny. I guess that's why they call it Manny being Manny, is because there's no other way.
It's such a perfect nomenclature.
There's no other way to really describe it.
No,
it's the perfect way.
Manny being Manny.
Manny being Manny. And doing things like running and making a catch in foul territory.
Oh, and doing
high-fiving a fan.
Like
throwing the ball back into the cutoff man.
Like taking female,
taking supplements?
Yeah, no. what was he taking? The birth control.
Yeah.
Something to the effect of.
Yeah. It wasn't even a supplement.
That's Manny being Manny.
Manny being Manny.
It's just we gotta record a loop. I'm talking about the loops a lot. So if you're tuning in and you're gonna tune into future shows, expect annoying sound effects to be going nonstop because they put me in control of this board and I can do what I want, and it's going to sound stupid, but I don't care. You're going to welcome to my world.
So yeah, I got Manny.
We got to get a Manny Bean Manny theme song for any time he does something crazy, even though he's not even in the game. What's Manny Ramirez up to right now?
I know he was a while back. I don't know if
playing.
He was an assistant coach with the Cubs in the minors.
Oh, that's right.
I don't know what he's doing now.
He's
still doing that, but yeah, I'm kind of curious now. I'm gonna have to look that up. So why don't you get on to your number 7? I got Manny at 7.
Well, for my number 7, like I'm gonna go with one guy, but his brother Paul, as he liked to say, me and Paul, his brother Paul, also known as Daffy Dean, kind of fits into this a little bit, but I'm going to go with Jerome Dean, also known as Dizzy Dean. Dizzy Dean, starred for the St. Louis Cardinals. I believe it was like 1932 Gas House Gang, St. Louis Cardinals, right out of Redneck Central Casting was Dizzy Dean, and was very, very, very flagrant and flamboyant and in your face, kind of like Muhammad Ali. He's going to tell you what round he's going to knock you out in. That was Dizzy Dean. Dizzy Dean, a big part of what they called the Gas House Gang, and those guys like to go out and compete and play hard and get dirty. But also, he was not shy of telling you he was going to strike you out. A funny story is in the first game of a doubleheader, his brother Paul pitched the second game and threw a no-hitter in the first game of the doubleheader. Dizzy Dean had thrown a one-hit shutout, 8 innings of no-hit ball, ends up giving up 1 hit. It's a 1-hit shutout. They win the first game. His brother Paul turns around, throws a no-hitter in the second game, and in the post-game interview says, well, if I knew he was going to throw a no-hitter, I would have done it myself. Just things like that. Also, later after his career, he became a broadcaster, most notably for the Atlanta Braves, fitting in with that Southern culture, and would be kind of famous for a lot of words he would butcher the American language, like a Terry Bradshaw type, right? On there, but just absolutely butchering. But it's Terry Bradshaw. You listen to it because, the guy won 4 Super Bowls, and it's Terry Bradshaw. Same thing with Dizzy Dean. Dizzy Dean was a broadcaster butchering the English language with things like he slud into third base. Slud became
John Madden,
boom.
Think of
boom.
John Madden.
Yeah. Well, every time I think of John Madden, I think of Frank Caliendo now. I can't even do it. Things like he shouldn't have oughta swung. Just things like that, Dizzy Dean. So if you're not familiar, listen, they used to do this juggling act. The 1930s St. Louis Cardinals, the Gas House Gang, used to do this juggling act where they would throw the ball over one and throw it around their back and through their legs and never disrupt this flow of this juggling act. So if you can go up and look on YouTube or somewhere, some archive site somewhere, and look up some videos of Dizzy and Daffy Dean and the Gas House Gang and some interviews, definitely worth checking out. So that's my number 7, Dizzy Dean.
So I said maybe some of these might not even necessarily be a person, and this one is not technically. Well, it's a person in a costume. And no relation to our Disruption Network's own Mike Chicken O'Connor. The San Diego Chicken coming in at number 6.
The San Diego Chicken.
The San Diego Chicken.
I remember when they had him at a Utica Devils game when I was a kid. And it was a big deal, and my dad had to take me to the game, and we sat up on the glass, and it was just a big deal, and he came, and he's throwing eggs at everybody in the crowd. It was just the greatest thing. So, all right, go ahead. San Diego Chicken.
The San Diego Chicken, and that it's funny you mentioned that, too, because my earliest memory of even learning about the San Diego Chicken was from my parents, too, from just some ridiculous sporting events and appearances that he had done. And, he wasn't just a sports mascot, so he wasn't limited to baseball. I think he actually the San Diego Chicken started as some kind of mascot at the San Diego Zoo. But then he ended up just becoming the mascot for the San Diego Padres, the San Diego Chicken. And he would have all sorts of antics, like throwing eggs at people, like you said. There was the early days when he first started doing San Diego Padres games. There was a thing where if a fan yelled lay one on me. He would go over to that fan.
And he would put it on his head.
And no, he would actually
all right.
somehow lay an egg through like a stocking that he had onto the fan. And the egg would open up and it would have some little prize in it. So he would literally lay eggs.
What am I thinking of? The San Diego chicken where he would come over and smash.
Oh, I'm sure he
would
did.
Just smash
he
eggs
did that
onto,
too.
Just awesome. Can we do some honorable mentions now that we're talking?
I think the characters.
I think we need to do a seventh inning stretch on mascots. Totally,
we should. We
just
should.
Best mascots.
So maybe this will be a preview of a future seventh inning stretch.
You guys got a favorite mascot out there or a favorite San Diego chicken memory?
Just mascot.
Let us know. See, the first time I ever heard about it was going to a Devils game. But like the Philly Fanatic, there's another one. The Philly Fanatic, Billy Marlin.
Yeah.
My favorite Philly Fanatic one is Billy Marlin comes out on his 4-wheeler out onto the field, and then the Philly Fanatic stole it.
Yes,
and
I've seen that. And you know who else I've seen steal that before is Noah Syndergaard. Thor has actually stolen that 4-wheeler and taken it for a ride. That's somebody we probably could have put on either of these lists as well. He's not on mine. I don't know if he's on yours, but Syndergaard deserves an honorable mention.
Maybe we're only up. I've only given my number 7.
Yeah, so who knows?
Maybe Thor is on mine. He doesn't.
I can tell
he
you,
certainly fits his nickname. He does. He fits his nickname.
So the San Diego Chicken is my number 6. He actually appeared at I think it was 520 consecutive San Diego Padres games back in the 70s. Back when back when this chicken made a name for himself as one of the most famous mascots in sports. So the San Diego Chicken.
My next guy is somebody that we make a point to talk about every single time on this show, and it just gets better and better and better. So for my number 6, I think that we're both going to probably
It's going to be somebody from Rochester, New York.
It's going to be somebody from Rochester, New York, or right up the thruway. Exit 43 or 44, whatever gets you to Rochester, 10 or 12 exits away from us, came a man from legend, a man named Old Hoss Radbourne.
Old Hoss Radbourne.
Old Hoss Radbourne.
I'm glad you put him on this list.
Listen, I know that your love for Old Hoss Radbourne runs just as deep as mine, and yesterday it was
pitcher with more than 300 victories.
309 and 194 if we're being technical. A member of the National Baseball Hall of Fame. He was inducted in 1939 by the Veterans Committee. A member of the Buffalo Bisons, the Providence Grays, the Boston Bean Eaters, the Boston Reds, and eventually the Cincinnati Reds for one season. He won the Triple Crown of pitching in 1884. Don't know how much that says about somebody, but two-time NL wins leader because he started every game in 1883 and 1884.
But just the stats alone aren't what make Old Hoss Radbourne.
It doesn't even
an interesting
broach
guy to talk
the
about.
topic.
It doesn't even touch it.
It can't encapsulate the persona that is Old Hoss.
So you put a picture up on our Facebook page today to preview the show.
I did.
And you want to explain that a little bit in case people didn't notice the detail?
So apparently, according to an article that you sent me, the very first documented usage of the middle finger as an insult is Old Hoss Radbourne.
The first photo.
Somebody
giving the bird was Old Hoss Radbourne in a team photo.
Over the shoulder. So if you want to do that, go check us out on Facebook. And while you're on Facebook checking out that picture, make sure to scroll up to the top of the page and give us a like. Share us with your friends, please, if you could. But Old Hoss Radbourne is featured in a photo on, I think that needs to be our cover photo.
It should be.
It needs to be our cover photo. Old Hoss Radbourne is getting his mention. So tell me more about Old Hoss Radbourne and why he's a character.
So old Hoss Radbourne.
What was he? He wasn't a pitcher all the time. He couldn't have been. His name is Old Hoss.
Old Hoss Radbourne. There's a couple interesting facts about Old Hoss Radbourne, and this is unconfirmed, but he might be the inspiration for the term Charlie horse. It's debatable, but I've seen some things written that say he was the inspiration for it. And after his playing days were over, he was born in Rochester, New York, not too far from us here at Disruption Network, and played the game, played for all sorts of teams, bounced around to a lot of different cities, had a pretty good long career, 300 plus games won, After his career was over, he decided to move to Bloomington, Indiana, or Bloomington, Illinois.
Illinois, yep.
Bloomington, Illinois. And he decided to open up I believe it was a pool hall saloon. And
because that's always like the best. That's the best idea ever, right? Especially
I can't blame the guy
in the early 1900s. Why wouldn't you want to own a pool hall saloon? I mean, you're the man.
Yeah, sit there and tell stories of your Major League Baseball days. I'm sure it was quite the place to be, this old saloon that old Hoss Radbourn owned. So he goes hunting in Bloomington, Illinois, or nearby, and he has an accident and he loses an eyeball. So he spends the rest of his days in a dark room in the back of his saloon in Bloomington, Illinois, because he doesn't want to see anybody. He's ashamed of his appearance. So he hides in the back room of his saloon, and that's how he lived out the remainder of his days.
Charles Gardner, old Hoss Radbourn, you are, I mean, obviously you died in 1897, so you can't ever go out of the baseline. But, my friend, you are eternally inside the
I want to get an old Hoss Radbourn jersey.
I want to open a saloon called Old Hoss Radbourns. I want to get a whole jar of Old Hoss Radbourn, and I want to bathe myself in it. Old Hoss Radbourn getting as many mentions as humanly possible on the baseline.
And he deserves it.
And he deserves it because
every minute of it.
For every layer of the onion we unfold, he just becomes this legendary man. He is a gentleman's gentleman, the rugged of the rugged.
And check out the Twitter account that's out there for Old Hoss Radbourn, too. There is
truly
that will just make
phenomenal.
You laugh. Something will make you laugh to the point where you're in tears.
So Old Hoss Radbourn. Rochester,
still relevant today.
I wonder if Old Hoss Radbourn ever had a garbage plate. You think?
I don't know. That was probably
Tahoe's around then
before they were invented, I think.
No Red Hot.
Did they even have mac salad in the 1800s?
I don't know. I think they were more like bun people back then.
I think they were just getting into hamburgers and hot dogs back then. They might not have had the mac salad component down quite yet in the 1800s. But
maybe someday.
Maybe he invented the garbage plate. We don't know. Old Hoss Radbourn.
As we unpeel the layers of the onion, Old Hoss Radbourn could be responsible for nuclear fission. Who knows? Who knows? Einstein's theory of relativity was something that Old Hoss Radbourn scribbled down on a napkin and left at a bar.
That's why he's so interesting.
He should be the most interesting man in the world. Dos Equis, are you listening to us? Recreate the Old Hoss Radbourn as like a character, and you will sell as many Leinenkirgel summer shandies as you want to with Old Hoss Radbourn. If you do it right, he could be the most interesting man in the world, and he could be Keith Stone. All right?
Marketing opportunities. The
marketing opportunities on Old Hoss Radbourn are through the roof. Somebody needs to capitalize.
Maybe it's marketing opportunities for us. We need somebody. Dave, we need to dress you up as Old Hoss Radbourn. And
he'll do
some
it.
Videos.
He does it from the.
We'll do it at
he
Fort
loves
Stanwix.
dressing up. Yes, at Fort Stanwix
or Riskinny Battlefield.
That's right around
here in Central New York.
Fort Stanwix, right around the same period, right? Right. Yeah, 1790s,
Yeah,
1890s. Yeah,
Old Hoss Radbourn actually built Fort Stanwix.
He did with his bare hands. Listen, Chuck Norris doesn't sleep. He waits for Old Hoss Radbourn to come and kick his ass. So my number 6 is Old Hoss Radbourn. Who you got for number 6?
My number 5.
Oh, number 5. I'm
San
sorry.
Diego Chicken.
I can't count either.
6.
Yeah.
Is a current player. Is a guy in baseball right now and is a perennial MVP type player in baseball. He plays for the Cincinnati Reds. Joey Votto. Now, Joey Votto.
It's pretty funny that you say that. Can we do what we always do at least one time? At least one time on every 7th inning stretch? Sean, I also have Joey Votto.
There you go.
5.
That's what I like to hear.
So let's talk about Joey Votto, my all-time maybe favorite character in baseball history. Maybe, even though we're going to get into other things and we're ranking, but
he's the favorite.
He's the troll.
He's
a troll. I love it.
Troll. That's a perfect way to describe him, and I mean that in the best way possible.
Oh yes.
I mean that in the best way possible.
Because everything that he does, although if you were watching him first time, somebody posts something to somewhere on Facebook of one of his antics that he did, you'd be like, what a dick.
Yeah, it'd be, wow, look at this jerk.
What an asshole. But he does it to everybody.
He does.
So,
and the fans love it.
What are some things that Joey Votto has done?
So he does all sorts of funny things, interacting with visiting fans, and or when he's on the road and he's in a visiting stadium, and he'll do stuff like there's a foul ball kind of bouncing towards a spot where there's a fan that you always see that's reaching over for the ball, wants the ball, and he'll kind of run over to it. And I think he's done it several times already, even this season. And
a couple weeks ago, I'm going to talk about that. So go ahead.
Stop running just for like a second, just so this fan kind of thinks, oh, cool,
this ball's coming to me. This ball's coming to me.
And then he will just
sprint at it.
Yeah, he'll run his ass off. He'll sprint to the ball, pick it up, and just kind of look at the guy and walk away.
Just to keep the opposing fan from getting the foul ball.
But it's become such like a thing. It's like a thing now. It's not just him being a jerk, that those opposing fans or those fans when he is on the road love it. In most cases,
how could you not
love it? And
how could you
we were saying before we went on the air today, we were touching base about Joey Votto and some of these guys on our list, and I said, you know what? As a fan, I would much rather have the experience of having Joey Votto troll me or tease me.
Oh, for sure.
Than actually get the ball.
For sure.
It's almost more of a boring story if you get the ball.
All right, so maybe there's opposing fans that aren't keyed into what Joey Votto does, and it might catch them by surprise. But I'll tell you what right now, if I go to a game and they're playing the Cincinnati Reds and Joey Votto trolls me, I'm going to make it my life's mission to troll him back the entire game. I'm going to play that game with him.
And he loves that too.
Like a couple weeks. Yes, he does. But a couple weeks ago, did you see, I don't even know what team it was, but it was the coolest thing I've ever seen. A fan in the second deck at a stadium was playing paper, rock, scissors with an opposing team's bullpen. One of the members in an opposing team's bullpen is back there. He's playing paper, rock, scissors with a fan. That's the type of stuff that I love. You see, if you watch a lot of MLB Network or something, you'll see the promos with Mike Trout playing catch with fans.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right, that's the type of stuff that absolutely hooks young fans.
It is.
That's the type of stuff. The Cal Ripken will always stick in my mind because I was 13, so 1994, don't quote me on the date, 1994, 1993, I went to the Hall of Fame game that is now defunct. They don't do it anymore. But I went to the Hall of Fame game, and Cal Ripken wasn't playing. The Orioles were there, but Cal Ripken was it was announced days before. Cal Ripken is not playing in the Hall of Fame game. Dude plays 162 games a year. He is not playing on his 3-day off stretch. It's not going to happen. But he showed up to the game, okay? And he's in plain clothes. Now, you can imagine, you've been to Doubleday Field.
I have,
okay?
yeah.
So Doubleday Field, Cooperstown, just a hop, skip, and a jump away from us here in central New York. All right? That parking lot was hot. It was July, and that parking lot was hot. And there was at least 1,000 fans when, and I'm probably even being generous. There was probably more. Cal Ripken didn't move out of that spot in front of Doubleday Field's gate. Didn't move for 3.5 hours. Not an inch. If someone was waiting for Cal Ripken to sign something for them, he was doing it. And so
fan engagement.
That's
especially
the type
for
of
the
stuff.
young
Cal Ripken will always
younger fans.
Cal Ripken will always stick in my mind in that fan engagement section of the game. And that's what Joey Votto's out there doing right now.
It's a different way of doing it.
So earlier,
that's what it is. It's fan engagement.
Earlier this season,
he does hilarious things.
He did my favorite one. Okay?
Yeah, go ahead with yours.
All right, so they're playing the Phillies on the road. Well, you kind of already alluded to it. A foul ball hit a little squibber off the end of the bat. A lot of spin to it, but not rolling so hard. Rolls over towards the first baseline. Foul ball. Joey Votto, instead of letting it roll over to the fan that's waiting to scoop it down and pick it up, runs as fast as he can and grabs it and then shows it to the fan and throws it in his back pocket. Okay? There's been times where he'll make the last out of the inning, or he'll catch the last out of the inning, and he'll run over to the fan. Like, if you were home, that's what they're going to do, right? The home team makes the last out. They throw it in the crowd. And we can, at some point in time, we can talk about the ridiculous Major League Baseball policy with baseballs. It's ridiculous. They don't even last a pitch, not even a pitch sometimes, before they're taken out of play and thrown into the crowd. And sometimes they throw them into the crowd with only 2 outs. Those are always the best.
Yeah. You always see those panic moments when they realize what they've done.
I love those. Larry Walker is a guy that I remember doing that.
My favorite Joey Votto moment was actually last year, and he was at Wrigley Field. And this completely ties into what you were saying with the young fans and stuff, but he has such a different, unique way of doing it by almost kind of being the bad guy.
He's being a dick. He's being a villain.
So
the world needs villains.
So at one point, there's a foul ball. I think Kyle Schwarber was one who hit it. It was just a little dribbler that was right there next to first base, and he picks it up, and he takes 2 steps towards the stands, and this is at Wrigley Field, and he launches it onto the roof of Wrigley Field. And just torturing the fans there. But at the end of the game, you know what he did? He took off his jersey, he autographed it, and he handed it to a kid that was sitting front row right behind first base. Maybe the same kid that might have thought he was getting a baseball until Joey Votto launched it onto the roof of Wrigley. But he gave his jersey, probably signed it to a kid. A Cubs fan sitting in the front row. So, yeah, he puts on this whole troll personality, and he does a lot of things to, seem like a jerk and all that. But deep down, he's just being a character, and he belongs on our list. And I'm glad that we both had him on our list because he deserves to be there, and he is certainly one of the more interesting players.
He's one of my favorite players in the game. What do they call him? The big analytic, or the big the big process. They call him something to the effect of, they call him the process, because he attacks the game with such a process that it's kind of remarkable.
I've heard some myths about Joey Votto, or possible myths. I don't know how true it is, that there have been times where in the first month of a season, if you see his stats aren't good, that supposedly, and this is just some kind of legend, he purposely strikes out more at the beginning of the season in order to change the pitcher's approach for him the next time they meet later in the season. Whether that's true or not, I don't know.
I think it's got to be true.
Say you're winning like by 5 runs in the 8th inning, and you're up, and you might not want to give your hitting strategy away. You might want to bait that pitcher into doing something different the next time when you're at bat. Might mean a little
leverage. Yeah, leverage.
So who knows if that's true? But I have heard that.
Could it be
an urban legend?
You've watched the man approach the game. Could
an
it
urban legend about Joey Votto. A guy who he's gone full seasons without even hitting into a pop up.
So the urban legend, I don't know if it's actually still true, but it was a legit stat at least 3 or 4 years ago. And I don't know if it has happened. I'd like to see the video of it happening. But apparently, never, up until 3 years ago, Joey Votto never pulled a ball foul in a major league game.
Yep.
Never pulled a ball foul. That's incredible. You think about the happenstance. You think about the randomness of the game of baseball, and to never have pulled a ball foul is just insane. And the Prince of Process. That's what they call it.
And you know how we talk about old Hoss Radbourne, maybe someday, 100 years from now, the baseline of the future, Joey Votto will be their old Hoss Radbourne. Who knows?
Big shout out to my boy Todd Williams out there, and Anthony Z. Donaldson, Mike Chicken O'Connor from Disruption Network for giving us an opportunity to go through this right now. I see the board moving right now, so I wanted to say what's up to Todd, my boy. So I'm glad that we have Joey Votto on that list.
He should be.
I'm
he
super
absolutely
glad
should be on the list.
that we both had him in the same spot too, which is pretty funny. I'm gonna go with, here's my next guy. maybe not necessarily known as a character per se, but the way that I vision him is just one of the more outstanding characters. There's no other word to describe Ricky Henderson.
Oh, yeah.
Because Ricky Henderson would only use 2 words to describe Ricky Henderson.
Ricky
Henderson.
Yep. Ricky Henderson.
All right. You're talking about a guy who, all-time stolen base leader, very braggadocious.
I know we have Manny being Manny, but there should have been Ricky being Ricky before that. That really should have been a thing.
I got 12 seconds here that I want to take to totally encapsulate Ricky being Ricky. It's perfect.
Luke Rock was the symbol of great base stealing. But today, I'm the greatest of all time. Thank you.
Ricky Henderson. Ricky being Ricky.
Ricky being Ricky. Ricky Henderson was my favorite baseball player when I just got into baseball. Like I want to say like 1987, 88. Ricky Henderson was my favorite baseball player. And when he got traded from the Yankees back to, I think it was back to Oakland.
Yes, that right back to Oakland.
Devastating.
And then Seattle, Toronto, the New York Mets, the San Diego Padres. He played for every team.
He was with Boston.
So my favorite, I can't demonstrate it, and I can't put a video up here to show the fans what I mean, but my favorite of the Ricky character is when he would have a can of corn fly ball. And he would tap, boom,
the snap
and
catch.
just snap over his head. Yeah, that's pure Ricky being Ricky right there. So Ricky Henderson,
not good baseball fun.
Ricky Henderson will look at an
flair.
opposing pitcher, even if he's a lefty, he'll look him right in the eye and be like, "Yeah, I'm taking this base right now. I'm gonna steal right now. Yep, okay, I'm going." The gold chains, the hit a home run, know it's gone immediately, and do the spin move before you go running.
The all-time leader in leadoff home runs.
All-time leader, and every single home run, he had that little shuffle step before he got to the next base. He'd run, he'd Cadillac, he'd switch his body to being almost 45-degree angle. He'd run the bird. That's what he would do.
Love me some Ricky Henderson.
Love me some Ricky Henderson.
Like I said, my favorite player when I first got into baseball, it was him and Dave Winfield, but Ricky Henderson took it for me. He was my favorite, and for a lot of the reasons that you mentioned. He just caught my eye as a young kid, and that was, of course, before the "I am the greatest" speech and all that ended up happening.
Yeah, but almost not, because he broke Lou Brock's record.
It was close.
Incredibly
it was within
quick.
A couple of years.
Oh my! It was incredibly quick. He broke. He still had another 20 years in his career. We've talked about that again, alluding to previous seventh inning stretches. The most unbreakable records of all time. Stolen bases. Nobody's touching that. It's not even a part of the game anymore like that. So Ricky Henderson. Got him at my number 4.
I like that a lot. I like the Ricky Henderson.
Thank
pick.
you.
Good pick.
I like it when you like my picks.
I like it.
I want to like your pick. That's what I want to do. So who you got next?
My pick is a guy that has been for many years now a broadcaster in baseball, and he is such a character that he has earned the nickname Psycho. Psycho Steve Lyons. He's been calling games for a while as a color man on various different baseball networks. He's kind of bounced around a little bit, but he was such a character that there was one incident back in 1990, Tiger Stadium on a Monday night, summer night in Detroit, televised game. It's July 16th. He slides head first into first base, trying to beat out a bunt. And he gets up. He beats it out. He gets up, and he pulls down his pants. Pulls his pants down, and he's sitting there shaking dirt out of his clothes, literally with his pants around his knees. And a lot of people just looked at him, of course, just wondering what the heck he was doing. And he just sat there like it was an everyday occurrence. And Psycho Steve Lyons, at least for that one, I know we mentioned all these other several examples for these other guys, but that one example of some guy in a nationally televised game, and this is back in 1992, so nationally televised was a huge deal back then. It's not like it is today where you can pretty much find almost any game on TV at any given time. A nationally televised game in 1990. And he pulls down his pants in front of an entire stadium full of people and a national audience and doesn't think anything of it.
You know what I think of when you say Psycho? Lighten up, Francis.
Lighten up, Francis.
I think of Stripes. I think of the guy named Psycho on Stripes.
So Moon Man Lyons was
Moon Man Lyons.
That was the other nickname he earned after that incident. Moon Man Lyons comes in at number 4 on my list.
So number 3 on my list. Right? Am I at number 3? Yeah. I'm at number 3.
Yeah, you went first, right?
Yeah. That's
yeah,
good,
we're at
right?
Number 3.
You know,
number 3 is good. Right?
Math is kind of, not my forte. So sorry. But I'm going to go with a guy that maybe not a lot of people have heard of because he only pitched in one complete season. And then 4 subsequent seasons, getting hurt in 1977, kind of put a damper on his career. 29-19, 3.10. Those are the numbers, the career numbers for Mark the Bird Fidrich.
That's another good pick. I like it. Mark Fidrich.
So
that's quite the story, too. And I saw a story on Mark Fidrich on, I think it was MLB Network. It was either MLB Network or it might have been ESPN, like 30 for 30 or something. I don't remember specifically what the program was. But that drew me in. And I had heard of Mark the Bird before that, but some of the stuff they covered in that and some of the old interviews they did with him was stuff that I had never seen before. And that really, really drew me to that guy.
He
deserves to be on a list of characters as well.
For sure. So just as a background, if you don't know, who Mark Fidrich is, definitely go look it up. But big, tall, not so overpowering, left-handed, lanky, clumsy pitcher.
Really goofy looking guy.
Got the nickname the Bird from what became known actually as manicuring the mound. So in between pitches, this man would go and he would clean his cleats off and adjust the dirt on the mound. And he became known as the Bird because of the stance that he would get down in. And fans were actually calling for, we want the Bird, we want the Bird, we want the Bird, right? So 19-9 in 1976.
Out of the blue, too.
Right. A virtually unknown. Had his own personal catcher because he was such a quirky guy that the Detroit Tigers, he was a Detroit Tiger, the Detroit Tigers didn't even want to mess with the mojo. So he had his own personal catcher. Now, you got guys like Sonny Gray pitches better to Austin Romine than he does Gary Sanchez. And Greg Maddux always pitched to Charlie O'Brien instead of Javi Lopez, right? They kept Charlie. They rostered
David Ross with the Cubs that would catch.
They rostered Charlie O'Brien because he pitched, Greg Maddux pitched to him. Yeah, that's the only reason Charlie O'Brien was rostered. And so he had his, in days where that wasn't even heard of, he had his own personal catcher because the Detroit Tigers didn't even want to mess with. So he would talk to the ball. He would talk to the mound. He would aim the ball like a dart. So
he was a non-roster invitee.
19-9 as a non-roster invitee. And it just adds to the character that is Mark the Bird Fidrich.
And his teammates thought he resembled Big Bird, too, as part of the Mark the Bird nickname that they had given him. Because he had the kind of curly hair. And
he did resemble Big Bird.
Awkward appearance and awkward mannerisms on the mound. But it's a very, very interesting story. It ends up being a very sad story in the long run about Mark Fidrich. And his career only lasted 4 years, and that was it. I mean, he kind of faded out and had
injuries. Injuries cost him, but 19-9. that's a career for a lot of guys. So Mark the Bird Fidrets landing at number 3, right?
Mark the Bird.
Number 3 on my list of all-time characters in Major League Baseball. Mark the Bird. Who you got at number 3, SPG?
I've got another, of course, interesting character here at my number 3, and that's a more recent player. Not super recent, but in the last maybe 5 to 10 years, he was a pretty prominent character in Major League Baseball, and that's Brian Wilson, the Beard.
Oh, that's a good one.
The Beard.
That's a good one.
Closer for the San Francisco Giants for many years. One of the best closers in the game for a while.
Crazy.
He's crazy.
He is certifiably
You ever
crazy.
see some of the outfits he would wear?
Have you ever seen some of the outtakes of some interviews?
Yeah, some of the
the outfits and the beard. Okay,
crazy probably.
I have no outward appearance is not something that it doesn't dissuade me from. It doesn't make me think you're crazy, okay? It just makes me think you're eccentric, which he was.
He was.
Some of the stuff that guy
beard he had.
The eyes. That's that's the thing about it, where he would just go like this.
Mohawk.
Give the eyes.
Mohawk haircut.
Yeah. But he had the Mr. T mohawk. He
would do some crazy
He didn't have
stuff
like
too.
the San Francisco punk mohawk with the super glue.
Yeah.
He had that Mr. T mohawk, which just was even more intimidating.
Yeah,
he looked like Chuck Liddell out on the mound.
And especially,
like, who wants to mess with that guy?
Once you consider, too, that like at the time, like at his peak, he was probably the best closer in the game, if not like one of the top 2 or 3 for a couple of years. And he would do all sorts of stuff like in the stadium, doing workouts in the stadium when his teammates weren't around. He would run up and down the stairs in the stadium as part of his pregame workouts before anybody even got there. And I mean, that in itself doesn't sound too crazy, but just picture this guy with a ridiculous, like almost pirate beard and a mohawk, and just not really talking to anybody and just sprinting up and down all of the upper deck stairs in a stadium while you got a couple other media members and some other people setting up for a game or doing something, not really paying much attention, and you got Brian Wilson with his ridiculous beard. And I say ridiculous as in endearing term. One of the best beards in baseball history.
That
Brian
thing,
Wilson.
I'm sitting here. I'm nothing too good. It's patchy at best. But that's some serious dude beard envy right there.
Yeah,
thing.
And
that was just a full. Nobody wanted to.
It's
the James Harden.
Not too many people remember it. Yeah, he is. He is like the James Harden beard of baseball, and not too many people remember it. But when he came up, he didn't have that beard. It was just after he became closer. He was a setup man, or maybe a seventh inning guy at one point when he was really young when he came up in the majors. He didn't have that beard. And all of a sudden, one offseason, he just comes in, and now he's Brian Wilson, the Beard. And he became an elite closer and won some championships. And he's definitely one of the most eccentric people that I ever remember in the game. So Brian Wilson, number 3.
That's nice. That's a good one. And that's out of the box right there. I didn't even think about it. So for my number 2, I'm going to go with a guy. Now, if you're a baseball movie buff, again, I'm going to allude back to previous 7th inning stretches, and we have ranked our top 7 baseball movies in a previous one. And one of my top ones, one of your top ones, definitely on both of our lists, was Bull Durham. Yeah. So if you've seen Bull Durham, at the beginning of Bull Durham, in one of the first game footages that they show, there's this guy, and he has this very goofy appearance and a very baggy uniform and this tall, lanky, goofy-looking body with these big clown lips and clown antics. And it's funny that I say clown because his name eventually became the Clown Prince of Baseball.
Clown Prince of Baseball.
Max Patkin. So Max Patkin was born in 1920. He was originally a minor league baseball player. An injury, it set that off, right? So he never really made the majors. He was called into active duty during World War II. He joined the Navy. And while stationed in Hawaii in 1944 and pitching for a service team, Joe DiMaggio homers off Max Patkin, right? In mock anger in front of this whole crowd In mock anger, Max Patkin slams his glove down on the ground and follows Joe DiMaggio around the entire base path. Right? Joe DiMaggio, the Yankee Clipper, home runs off this guy in Hawaii while playing for a service team. And this guy slams his glove down, runs around the bases. So that was the introduction for the world to Max Patkin. Over the course of the next 50 years, including in Bull Durham, Max Patkin, also a barnstormer. If you know anything about the history of the game, you'll know that early in the game's history, players did what's called barnstorming. In the offseason, they would band together as a group of all-star teams. Think of, the Harlem Globetrotters playing the Washington Generals. And they would band together as this group of all-star teams, and they would go around to places that didn't necessarily have access to Major League Baseball. And they would do that as being ambassadors of the game and trying to spread the game. So Max Patkin was a barnstormer. After his baseball playing career, it's estimated that he made over 4,000 appearances at major league and minor league stadiums, playing to the crowd as this clown prince. Whether it would be engaging with fans or engaging with mascots or making fun of umpires' calls, carrying out 13 bats, shouldered across himself and trying to swing them and falling down on the ground. Just zany clown-like antics, entertaining crowds. It was almost an honor to have Max Patkin show up at one of your games. It was almost like, when the San Diego Chicken showed up to the Utica Devils game, and that's how I got to know about the San Diego Chicken. That's how you got to know about Max Patkin.
The Clown Prince.
The Clown Prince of baseball. So any list that we're going to do about characters in the game of baseball, you got to mention the Clown Prince of baseball. So Max Patkin, rest in peace, Maxie, but go check out Bull Durham first and foremost if you want to see some Max Patkin and what he did out there on the baseline when he was standing out there. But Max Patkin, he's my number 2 for all-time characters in the game of baseball.
So my number 2 is John Kruk, a character that I just was instantly drawn to back in the day. A career 300 hitter, a guy who wrote a book titled "I Ain't an Athlete, Lady." John Kruk. And he's a guy that was never afraid to make fun of himself and make jokes about his weight and some other things going on in his life. There's, of course, the famous All-Star game facing Randy Johnson, and Randy Johnson just throws the pitch behind him, and John Kruk is just practically sweating bullets just looking at him, kind of laughing, and then just steps away from the plate the next couple pitches. And just a very strong personality in baseball, and somebody who's a great commentator too.
Yeah, well, you know what?
Him on post-game shows.
Let's not discount the fact that he was a great player.
Oh, he hit over 300 for his career.
He's a 300 hitter for his career. Not obviously not a lot of longevity in that career, but he was an all-star. And speaking of which, one of his most zaniest antics or memorable moments happened in an all-star game against Randy Johnson, Mr. Snappy, as it became to be known in post ESPN commercials. They had Randy Johnson had the ball balanced, right here on the back of it. He called it Mr. Snappy, and that was in reference to a pitch that went over. Now, no lefty in the world wants to step in against Randy Johnson. Not in 1995, anyway.
Not even in an all-star game.
Not in an all-star game either. And Randy Johnson threw a pitch over the head of John Kruk, correct? And
I think it was behind him. It was like behind him and over his head.
And he went over to the other side. He flipped his helmet and went over to the other side and said, "You know what? Screw it. I'm going to bat." I'm going to bat right-handed.
One of the most memorable moments, in my opinion, in All-Star Game history was the Randy Johnson-John Kruk interaction with that whole thing. I Maybe that's an idea for another baseline. Is another seventh inning stretch on the baseline is ranking some all-star moments like that, whether it be lighthearted or otherwise. But before you know, we're going to be at the all-star break. But
can we talk about? I understand that we're doing it about characters and stuff, but I like to throw stats out every once in a while. Can we talk?
Of course, because that all ties into it too.
In 1992, the Phillies went to the World Series. Okay, 323, 10 home runs, 70 RBIs, 458 slugging, 423 on base percentage. He's an all-star that year, but he hit 323 for a year. So to entitle a book called "I'm Not an Athlete," kind of crazy. He hit 14 and 85 with 111 walks, 316 average, and 430 on base percentage the next year in 1993. And those are just good numbers. And
one of the best personalities in the game.
1993 was the year that they went to the World Series, right? That was the Mitch Williams year. It wasn't 1992. So I kind of misspoke myself there. 1992, I believe, was the Minnesota Twins. And no, the Toronto Blue Jays won back-to-back.
They did. They beat
92, 93.
The Braves, I believe.
91 was the Twins. Beat the Braves. Toronto.
We're talking about the Joe Carter World Series.
Yeah,
another
that's 1993.
Predominant character of the game, Mitch Williams, a teammate of John Kruk.
Yeah, and another great analyst. Mitch Williams is an awesome analyst. So that's another character in the game. And I've already given kind of special recognition to the Philly Fanatic and Lenny Dykstra. Those are some guys that are characters above all else. And we talked about Noah Syndergaard. Noah Syndergaard's not number one on my list to keep all those Mets fans in suspense.
He's in discussion for today's game for sure, though.
Yeah.
The players, current players,
for
Noah
sure.
Syndergaard is
absolutely
right up there.
But I like the pick of John Kruk. And he was another great analyst. I believe he might have been on the rundown first, right?
I think he was, yeah.
I'm pretty sure that he was on the rundown.
He was doing some post-game with who was it?
But a career 300 hitter, John Kruk.
But yeah, he's been doing some commentary for a while, like some pregame and postgame stuff with one of the major networks. And it's still a great personality. It's fun to hear him tell stories. And when I was kind of putting my list together, searching for some stuff on John Kruk just to kind of jog my memory, I found an article that's called "John Kruk, More Awesome Than You Realized" by Dan McQuaid. So search for that if you want to read some, because I could go on and on about this for a long time. If you want to read like a great article about John Kruk and just some behind the scenes stuff and some of the things that he dealt with, John Kruk, More Awesome Than You Realized by Dan McQuaid.
I love the title.
I know. That's what drew me in. I was like, I got to read
so compelling.
It kind of leads with, I'll just give one kind of quick story that they lead the article with, and it talks about, John Kruk is a cancer survivor, and he had to have one of his testicles removed because he had testicular cancer.
And we've talked about that on this show before, gentlemen that are out there listening, in reference to Jameson Tyon.
Yes, and Chad Bettis.
Check yourselves.
Chad Bettis with the Colorado
Don't be
Rockies.
embarrassed. If you feel something, say something. It's important.
So John Kruk, he is a survivor, and it worked out okay, and he's still alive and well, but it was a very public thing. It was very well known that he went through this and he had this procedure, and there were people that would be running their mouth about it and chirping him and kind of heckling him about that. And no matter where he went, whether he was playing the game or whether he was just doing something away from baseball. So there's a story in there about how he's at a high school game and some guy from across the way, I don't know, some distance away, yells some cruel joke about him only having one testicle. And John Kruk said in this interview on this article that it's a good thing that he was a long ways away, because if not, I would have beat the shit out of him, is what he said. And then he goes on because his teammates actually...
He's going to go meta world peace run our test.
His teammates would break his balls about it too, or his ball about it too. Sorry, John Kruk. And
listen, if John Kruk was close to you right now,
I'm glad
he
he's
would
far away.
beat your ass. All right.
Glad he's far away. So Mitch Williams, the aforementioned Mitch Williams, would be one of these guys that would constantly break him on him, and he said it's different when you're in the locker room.
Hey, how good's that team?
And
by
you
the
got
way?
somebody like Mitch Williams, a buddy and friend of mine that can joke about that, and I know it's a joke when Mitch Williams says it to me. But some guy across a field somewhere, at a high school game in West Virginia, he says, people I don't know that joke around about that, they deserve their ass beat.
Yes.
He says.
Agreed.
And, of course, I did make a joke. I'm sorry, John Kruk. All the respect in the world to you. You're number 2 on my top characters in baseball history. Yeah. And it was a pleasure watching you play.
You're number 2 even though you don't have to. Huh?
And it's a pleasure watching you commentate. So
no, it
John
was a
Kruk.
pleasure. Listen, so when we're cutting our teeth on liking baseball, okay, not that we weren't fans in the late 80s and early 80s, but the early 90s, they were dominated by the Phillies. And like I just said, how about those
Phillies and Blue Jays?
How about those teams that the Blue Jays or that the Phillies paraded out there? The aforementioned Lenny Dykstra was a big part of those teams.
Yeah.
But guys like Greg Jeffries came over and kind of reinvented himself.
Former Mets there, yeah.
From being, the top prospect in the game. Everybody had a Greg Jeffries card when we were in, 1988. Everybody had a Greg Jeffries card. But Greg Jeffries goes over. Juan Samuel, another guy that was a Philly in those early days. But guys like Darren Dalton and Pete Incaviglia and John Kruk and Kurt Schilling and Mitch Williams made that team a very enjoyable team and a very memorable team to watch.
Mariano Duncan spent
Mariano
time
Duncan,
with the Philadelphia Phillies.
He did. So I like that you have John Kruk as number 2 on that list because he's somebody that I wouldn't have even thought as a character in the game like that. But now that you mention it, all of my nostalgia gears
when
are
you really
just,
think about
they're just going. Yeah, when you really think about it. John, what was the title of that book again?
John Kruk.
Or that article?
More Awesome Than You Realize by Dan McQuaid. And we can post, we'll post the link to that on our Baseline Facebook and Twitter too, so you guys can check it out because it is worth a read. Whether you know about John Kruk, whether you don't, whether you're a baseball fan, whether you're not, this is a great article. So check it out by Dan McQuaid.
So my number 1, which I can only assume because I know you, okay? I know you.
There's one very prominent name.
I know you.
One of the most prominent names in baseball history, in my opinion, and probably everybody's opinion.
So I could probably.
It hasn't been mentioned, so I'm going to go out on a limb and say we are in agreement on number 1 overall.
Yeah. Baseball is 90% mental, and the other half is physical. It's like deja vu all over again. SPG. Who you got as number 1?
You can observe a lot just by watching.
The future ain't what it used to be. No one goes there nowadays. It's too crowded.
When you come to a fork in the road, you take it.
If you don't know where you're going, you'll end up someplace else.
A nickel ain't worth a dime anymore.
It's tough to make predictions, especially about the future.
Congratulations. I knew the record would stand until it was broken.
Lawrence Peter Yogi Berra.
So he won this list. And you know what?
He should.
Yogi, you wouldn't have won if we'd beaten you.
I love it. How punny can we be? Lawrence Peter Yogi Berra, by far the number 1 transcending character in Major League Baseball history. Yogi-isms. And speaking of isms, let me just say, had I given my list more thought, I think that Joe McCarthy may have had to end up on my list because of the McCarthyisms and stuff. Because I said Yogi-isms, I'm kind of thinking about Joe McCarthy. But anyway, honorable mention for Joe McCarthy.
Absolutely. And Yogi Berra is actually somebody I share a birthday with.
Really?
I was born on Yogi Berra's 54th birthday. in May 12th of
They give you cash,
1979.
which is just as good as money.
That's right.
So, you know, if you get hurt and miss work, it doesn't hurt to miss work. I mean, I don't think that there's anything that we even need to say more. That's how much this man's quotes and isms. My favorite.
We could do a whole show just on Yogi Berra quotes and Yogi-isms. We really could. There is that much where you
my
could
favorite
go into
Yogi
an
Berra
entire
moment.
show on Yogi Berra.
My favorite Yogi Berra moment. Two of them. I'll tell you two of them. First one is not that I was around for it or anything like that, but 56 World Series, Larson's perfect game. Yogi runs out and starfishes Don Larson, who's considerably taller than him. He runs out and he koala bears Don Larson and hugs him. And such an awesome looking moment, right? Second favorite Yogi Berra moment. Happened in 1999. Yogi Berra Day at Yankee Stadium. Yogi Berra Day, honoring Yogi Berra, number 8. They're honoring him at the stadium, and David Cone throws a perfect game against the Montreal Expos. So aside from being such a character and all those things, just an outstanding legacy. Rest in peace, Yogi Berra. But you're number one on my list, and I don't think it's even debatable by anybody.
Yogi.
I love it.
So that's it for the 7th inning stretch. Brought to you by Steet Ponte Volkswagen. Stop down to the showroom at 5046 Commercial Drive in Yorkville, New York. See why it's easy to do business with Steet Ponte Volkswagen. Check out their website at steetpontevolkswagen.net. Well, I don't know if we have an out of the baseline this week. There wasn't really any major deserving candidates, so we talked about this a little bit before we went on the air, and we kind of agreed that we wanted to talk a little bit about the draft, and there's a controversial figure out there, Luke Heimlich, and he's out of the baseline. I'm not going to get into the details about that. Anybody who's listening can go look up the nitty-gritty and the gory details on Luke Heimlich. I just want to give a shout-out to Major League Baseball, to every single team for the second year in a row not drafting this guy with the reputation he has. It's a pretty sad and sick story. I don't even want to talk about the details of it. So
no,
people can listen.
You can look it up.
Do some Googling.
It's not worthy of looking it up. Let's just say it was
about Luke Heimlich.
Pretty egregious.
I'm glad that he wasn't drafted again. And Luke Heimlich, you're out of the baseline.
Luke Heimlich, you are out of the baseline. And you've been out of the baseline for a few shows, and you're going to continue to stay there. I think we were talking about out of the baseline earlier, and I think the only guy that I would allow back inside the baseline that's done enough is Gabe Kapler.
Yeah. We
threw Gabe Kapler out earlier in the year. We threw the Mets out last week. They did shit.
Yeah.
Nothing.
They're still out of the baseline.
They're still out of the baseline. It's going to take a lot of earning to get back inside the baseline.
Yeah, we should revisit some of those in case they deserve to be brought back inside the baseline.
I threw Angel Hernandez out.
He's still out of the baseline.
And he is out. Can I talk? I'm throwing Angel Hernandez out again. I'm ejecting
You're out
him.
Of here again, Angel
I'm ejecting him from the stadium. That's what he deserves. The worst balls and strikes umpire in the history of Major League Baseball punched out the last player to win the Triple Crown, Miguel Cabrera. Miguel Cabrera took exception to the called third strike, wanted to have his say, his piece. Angel Hernandez turned his back on Miggy. Just turned around, a la that the NBA ref that did it earlier in the year. Rather than arguing, he turned his back on a former MVP Triple Crown winner who has put in his time to speak to you. As long as he's not showing you up and arguing balls and strikes, because I know that's an automatic ejection and it's so bad, right? As long as he's not showing you up, you don't turn your back on Miguel Cabrera.
No, absolutely not.
You don't do
disrespect.
That. Especially when you have the reputation as being the worst balls and strikes umpire to ever exist in the history of the game. Angel Hernandez, you are out of the baseline. There is nothing
Okay.
you can do to get back inside the baseline. You should just go retire and do every baseball fan a favor because you clearly think that it's all about you. And that's not good. It is not good.
Not
Be
good at
neutral.
all.
Angel Hernandez, I called you out the first time, not this strongly worded, but this time you've been on notice. You're out of the baseline. You're staying there. And that's it.
You're out of here, Angel.
I'd like to say a big thank you to everyone out there that tuned in and is watching the
One
baseline.
quick note
here.
about today's action.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, go
Dave
ahead.
chimed in. Boston Red Sox brought up Jalen Beeks to make his major league debut today, and he has given up 6 earned runs through 3 innings. So
That's good,
a
right?
little bit of a rocky start for Jalen Beeks.
It'd be funny if he was playing Colorado.
Poor Dave, I think, picked him up.
Oh,
Yeah, I think that's why he was chiming in.
you got to look at the numbers, man.
I'm sorry, Dave.
No, Dave, I'm sorry, buddy. I'm sorry. But he is a Red Sox, so you should have been prepared. Okay.
Oh, one other thing,
I won't.
too.
I'll leave the homerism.
One very other note that we have to mention tomorrow night, 4 to 6 p.m., the Empowerment Center block party.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. How could I forget about the empowerment?
Right down
Center?
the street here from Disruption Network. Tomorrow night, June 8th, 4 to 6 p.m. at the Empowerment Center on 230 James Street. There's going to be music provided by
Ease One.
Ease One from Ease Beats and Bizz, our very own. There's going to be grilling with the Utica Police Department, hands-on crafts from BB Design.
Angie Johnson, good
Angie
job out there,
Johnson.
BB Designs.
Steamworks Ability Labs going to be involved in that.
seed bombing, right?
Seed bombing, lead safe demos, prizes. The Utica Fire Department's going to be down there. And it's a busy weekend for the D because I believe they are doing the Relay for Life on Saturday, noon to 3, I think, right here at MV, not far away. There's going to be music and all sorts of good times. Mutt Farm's going to be there. I think DJ's one might be there as well. If not, there's going to be other guys from Ease Beats and Bizz down there. So that's going to, and of course, that's a very important event for the American Cancer Society.
It's a very important event for everybody.
Yeah, it is.
If you can go down
Everybody's
there and
got a connection.
if
to
you
somebody.
can check out what the Relay for Life is all about, it's quite amazing.
And it's such a well put together event.
It
too.
is run
It
like
is
tippy
such
top,
a
tippy
great,
top.
worthwhile event for a cause that I can't say enough about. So, Relay for Life this weekend as well,
And the thing at the Empowerment Center too.
yeah, the Empowerment Center thing too.
That's another important thing, especially for the neighborhood that it's in. It's good to bring presence and awareness to maybe a neighborhood that doesn't feel so safe anymore. But you're going to go out there and you're going to see hundreds of people hanging out in that neighborhood and having a good time and hanging out with the fire department and the police department and
and BB Design.
BB Designs. I mean, that's what I consider a good time. So if you're in the central New York area and that's something that you can attend either one of those events, please feel free to get down there and mention the D to everybody that you can because
Please do.
excellent.
And then Sunday,
things.
of course, the Dirty Heads concert. That's the reason why we're doing a Thursday show tonight. Is Sunday Creative Concerts is putting on the Dirty Heads at Saranac Brewery here in Utica, New York.
Yeah, and if you're a Dirty Heads fan out there or you're a fan of...
Check out the interview that the D did with
we got
Johnny B.
we got an interview on DisruptionNetwork.net as well as our
Check out all
Facebook
the
page.
content on there, all the other shows, everything. DisruptionNetwork.net.
I can't thank them enough. I do it every time I see all of them, but living out a dream here talking
And you know
baseball.
what? You know what Yogi Berra says, JP?
What does Yogi Berra
He says it gets late early out here. So on that note, we'll see you guys next time. I think we're going to be broadcasting next on Thursday, the 14th next week.
Yeah.
That's Father's Day weekend. I'm going to the Yankees game on the 16th.
I'm celebrating Father's Day with
Saturday the 16th.
with Dominic, Marley, and Sophia, my 3 chillins.
On Sunday, I'll be hanging out with mine, Riley, and Dylan. And I love Father's Day weekend. So we're not going to be broadcasting on Father's Day, but hopefully we'll see you a couple days before
And happy
that.
Father's Day to all the dads out there. Remember, it takes a really big man to be a dad. So be a dad in somebody's life and give them the gift of baseball because it's a gift that will give for years and
Keeps on
years and
giving.
years.
The
and
memories
years
are
to come.
priceless.
They definitely are. Every great
Shout out
memory
to
in
my
my
dad,
life, man. Yeah,
Bob Gaffney. He's a frequent listener.
Ronnie Schofield, thank you. I love you. Thanks for, and speaking of Father's Day.
Just in case we don't squeeze a show and we got to throw this in. But
yeah, listen, speaking of Father's Day, in 1964, my father was fortunate enough to go with his dad to Shea Stadium and see future Congressman Jim Bunning throw a perfect game. And back, what is there, maybe 28 or 30 or something to the effect of now in the game. Back in 1964 wasn't such a common occurrence. And I actually have 2 ticket stubs to that game kicking around someplace, and a pretty cool experience for my dad. So big up to my dad. You are literally the reason that I'm sitting here right now talking baseball, because you introduced me to baseball. And Claudell Washington and Mike Pagliarulo and all the Yankees
Mike Gallego.
all the Yankees of the early 80s that I sat
Kelly.
there and watched with you. Thanks, Dad. I appreciate it. And it's all the
Roberto
dads out
Kelly.
there.
Roberto Kelly, too.
Yes, Roberto Kelly and Danny Tarnable, and the list could go on and on and on forever. But thanks for introducing me to the game that I love so much, Dad.
Andy Hawkins
means a lot to me. Andy Hawkins, Scott Kamenicki.
All right, everybody. We will see you next time. It's getting late early here, as Yogi would
SPG,
say.
JP, this is the Baseline. Thanks for tuning in. Peace out.
We're out.
Join the Disruption Network crew Friday, June 8th at the Empowerment Center Block Party, 230 James Street in Utica, from 4 to 6 p.m. Music provided by our very own DJ East One. There will be vendors, grilling with the Utica Police Department, hands-on craft with BB Designs and Steamwork Ability Lab, seed bombs, lead safe demo, and come hang with Utica Fire Department. That's Friday, June 8th at the Empowerment Center, 230 James Street in Utica. The block party is hosted by the Home Ownership Center, the Mohawk Valley Association of Realtors, Steamworks Ability Lab, Lead-Free Mohawk Valley, Berkshire Bank, MVP Healthcare, BB Designs, and NeighborWorks America.
The Property Sisters of the Mohawk Valley was born when 3 top producing agents with over 25 years of combined experience selling real estate joined forces to take real estate to the next level. We practice with honesty, integrity, and the knowledge to help make the buying and selling process easy and stress-free for all of our clients. We pledge to always make our clients our top priority from start to finish, and even after the house is closed. We will always be a valued resource for information and assistance for our buyers and sellers. Our customers over the years have become not only past clients, but great friends. As we join hands together as the Property Sisters of the Mohawk Valley, we look forward to serving our clients and our community and making a positive difference. You can reach us at 315-601-9630 for all of your real estate needs.
When it's your hard-earned money on the line that you are investing into a home, it makes sense to choose a proven professional to assist you in making one of the biggest investments you may ever make. Josh's dedication of over 20 years to the home construction industry allows him to bring knowledge and experience to your doorstep. That means you can feel confident and comfortable with his service to you. Past clients love his attention to detail and thorough written reports. By allowing Priceless Inspections to help you make a well-informed decision concerning your property, you will find that a quality inspection is priceless. Follow Priceless Inspections on Facebook or call 315-525-8725.
Hi, this is attorney Nick Pasalacqua. The team of attorneys I have assembled at Pasalacqua